know someone who's quit on their dream? You know the hard reality? The adversity was greater than their love. The adversity was greater than their love for their family.
What causes someone to not know their mission and miss it? Is it they spend too much time in the former story, that they have taken meanings that don't serve them from the story?
There's really three fears that I've identified, which is the fear of failure, the fear of success, and the fear of judgment. I was so driven to succeed because I didn't feel enough.
Yes.
And I thought by succeeding would fill the hole of not feeling enoughness. Even when I broke the world record, even when I was a two-sport All-American, even when I played the USA handball team, even when I hit my first $1 million after I was broke, I was so self-critical because at the root cause of all three of these fears is I am not enough.
Gosh.
And the I am not enoughness will destroy us. It will hold us back from our truest gifts, from expressing our love, from being generous, from being open. That's the thing that I had to learn how to heal. Why do I not feel enough? No matter what I accomplish, I still don't feel enough. Why am I never satisfied with me? I need to accomplish more in order for others to love and accept me. But really, at the end of the day, I did not love and accept myself. And when we can learn the art of loving and accepting ourselves authentically for all of our flaws and all of our beauty, that's when we can start stepping into true greatness.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's going to be awesome. I got a great friend here, someone I'm very, very proud of and very fond of. I have great affection for this man. I admire him, makes me emotional, and I respect him. And I think probably in my life the last 5-6 years, he's potentially grown more as a person than anybody that I know, and I loved him and thought he was amazing when I met him. And this is a guy in the pursuit of greatness. And it just so happens he's got a new book out called The Greatness Mindset. Unlock the power of your mind and live your best life today. This man's immensely qualified to talk on this topic. Lewis Howes, welcome, brother.
Thanks, Ed.
Yo, what's up? Comment ça va, Cédric?
Just past 10 years.
Oh, grand Cédric, mon ami. Comment ça va, mon ami?
And I'm
Je vais
grateful
bien,
you wrote the
merci.
book because you've been studying
Ça
greatness
fait
up close
ans.
now for about a decade.
LGT, legit. J'espère que tout va bien avec vous.
Serendipity and synchronicity.
J'ai vu les photos de toi et ta
tens
ton
of millions of people
famille.
that watch and listen to you every week on multiple platforms. And because they
Tu
watch and
t'amuses
listen,
bien?
magic
Ça-
happens in
ça-
their life. And I'm sure you hear it and see it and
Je
they
suis
send it a
heureux
lot,
pour
but
vous.
I don't know if everyone sends it enough. And so I want you, if you're watching or listening right now, if something happens today that is a serendipitous moment, is a synchronicity, maybe when something happens in your life, you're always like, oh, I'm going in the
Grand
right
Cédric.
direction. Maybe it's like you see a penny or you see a butterfly or you see some symbol or someone says something to you or someone in your life calls you, and when that happens, something good happens. Like, pay attention today when you're listening to this moment. And anytime you're watching or listening to Ed, and send him a message again saying there was a synchronicity because of you today. And when synchronicities happen, you need to listen, pay attention, and take action. And the moment you met Martha, my girlfriend, I guess it was last week, a week and a half ago, and you met her in a moment of prayer, was the moment you met her. You literally were holding her hand, and you were like, nice to meet you, while we were praying for a friend of ours in this moment. I won't say what was happening, but one of our friends was going through a moment that needed a lot of support and prayer. And you grabbed her hands and you said, nice to meet you. I'm sorry it's happening in this moment. And later, after the event, we were like, wow, there was a synchronicity that happened before this months ago, because I was in Maui with Martha, and I was about to make a big decision. And I remember saying, who's a mentor I could check in on and ask about this? That's why I think it's really important to enlist support and not try to do it all on your own. Like, find the mentors that you look up to. You're someone I really look up to, and I value your wisdom and your knowledge. And I was been planning to take a big investment for, 6 months. I was thinking about this, researching it, planning it. And I go, and I'm with Martha, I go, I think I just need to call someone and like double check. Someone who could give me some feedback on this. And I call you, and I'm like kind of walking around by myself, like in the grass by the hotel room. And then she comes up maybe like 5-10 minutes later, and I'm gonna have it on speaker so she can listen to the end of the conversation. And you said something to me. You said this is a divine intervention.
That's right.
That's what you said. You go, this is a divine intervention. You know, that you're calling me at this moment because something just came up. And if you called me 2 days ago, it wouldn't have happened. So this is divine intervention. And she's looking at me. She goes, because the night before we said, she did a prayer. She said, God, guide our steps in this decision. Give us a sign. She literally said, I'm giving chills. She goes, give us a sign for Lewis to be clear that this is the right decision to make. Because for months, it felt like it was the right decision. And something was off. I was like, I don't know, like maybe, maybe not. And she said, God, give us a clear sign that this is the right decision. And then the next morning I call you and you say, this is divine intervention. And I'm like, we're both kind of like jump back. And then months later, you meet her in prayer. And I'm like getting chills thinking about this because there's just synchronicities that happen in life. And when they happen to you, pay attention. And so that's why, another reason why I'm so grateful for you, because you've brought, even though we've only hung out, I don't know, 7-8 times, maybe in 5 years, maybe a dozen times, and I only had a handful of conversations, I truly value every interaction that I have. And there's always divine intervention every time I get to connect with you. So if you're listening or watching right now, please pay attention to the signs that are in your life when you're listening to this podcast or watching a clip or a video. Use it, because not everyone's going to get a chance to speak to you the way I do. Not everyone has that opportunity, but they have the opportunity to hear your wisdom on this show. Pay attention to the divine intervention when you're listening to this show and any show that Ed Divert does, and make sure you are following the signs.
Wow, brother, that is a beautiful story. Thank you for telling me.
Of course.
So good. I want to start somewhere interesting, which is the dedication of the book.
Okay.
You dedicated the book to you. But there's a reason, and I want you to share it, because I think this is the ultimate pursuit of greatness. Actually, you dedicated it to the younger you.
Yep.
Why?
I think we criticize ourselves and our younger selves too much. I think we live in shame, beat up, and we don't forgive our younger selves for all the bad things, all the things that we did to hurt ourselves and hurt others. And so over the last couple of years on my healing journey, I had a photo of my 5-year-old self for about a year on my phone. And it wasn't to be narcissistic or anything like that. It was, an emotional coach gave me an exercise and said, you've still got some wounds you got to heal. And I want you to go back and have a different relationship and create meaning from those painful memories in a supportive, loving, compassionate way towards your younger self. And so I spent a year, kind of when I was writing this book, doing this healing journey of the different psychological phases of my life. Bringing it closer right now, I've got a photo of my 17-year-old self.
Look at that.
I don't know where the cameras is, maybe it's over there, but it's kind of like when I was 17 in high school.
Yeah.
And I'm going to St. Louis tomorrow to see our mutual friend, but I'm also going to my alma mater, my high school, where this photo was taken.
Are you really?
So I'm on this journey of going back to all the painful memories, the things I'm proud of and the things I'm not proud of, from as far back as I can until now. And I'm trying to marry those ages to now, to be peaceful, to be kind, and to be compassionate to myself. And also take full accountability for all the different things that I was proud of and not proud of. And so I didn't know how this dedication would come off. I was like, maybe people might take this the wrong way. But I wanted to honor my younger self for getting me through the pain, the problems, the challenges, and getting me here without having all the tools, without having the wisdom, the experience, the knowledge, and by having to overcome so much. I wanted to honor my younger self.
I think it's beautiful, and because I know you so well, I knew the intention of it, but I wanted to make sure my audience did too. Do you think, this is going to get good real quick, because you're qualified to talk about this. So you've done this work about healing the former you, and you've been open about the fact that there was some sexual abuse issues in your life, and you hid those for so long, and the freedom that it created for you by just expressing it and being vulnerable and authentic about it. How does someone nuance? Or do they have to? I got to kind of create the right meaning from my past, at the same time not live there,
Right.
and begin to live greatly now. That nuance. And you talk about these different stages actually in the book, but how does someone nuance that?
I wouldn't recommend doing it on your own. I think have support, whether that's a priest or a counselor or a friend who's qualified or a therapist or some type of coach that can support you in holding the space when you have to go back and feel that pain. Because otherwise you might go in a downward spiral if it was that painful and you don't know how to process it. So I've always used coaches to support me in processing in a safe space. Well, they'll give me exercises, journaling, reflection, whether I'm crying or just opening up and whatever's coming up for me. And that allows me to have kind of a container where I can think about it, go back and feel it, and then move back into my life today, as opposed to living in that pain.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't serve us to stay in it constantly. Have a moment where we experience it, create new meaning, and create a new story about how this can benefit your future, no matter how painful or traumatic it was. Not saying it was okay or that you want to experience it again, but to create meaning from those moments has been very powerful for me. And it's really caused me to be like, okay, those things.
Yo, Russ, how did I not see your message, man?
And I
What?
wouldn't be
How
living
did I
my
not see
destiny
this?
now,
Thanks,
this
Russ.
path, this meaningful mission that I have now.
Sorry, bro. I didn't
without
see that.
all
What
these
the
collections of
fuck? How
experiences
did I not
that
see that?
occurred. Just like I
That
know
was like
everything that
10
you
minutes
went
ago,
through,
man.
it's
Sorry,
like
dude.
You wouldn't be the powerful
I'm sorry,
leader
man.
commanding a presence in any situation you go in. You wouldn't have the voice you have if you didn't feel voiceless when you were younger, because you had to overcome these things that caused you to be such a leader with such a force with every interaction you have. And I hope everyone listening and watching gets to meet
You
one
too,
day,
fellow
because
Canadian.
Your presence
Fellow
around
honorary-
human beings, you care so
Probably more
much
Canadian than I
about
am.
humanity.
It's okay. Everything. Yo,
It's
thanks.
because you went through stuff where you didn't feel like you were enough at different stages.
Thank you for saying
And-
that, brother.
exactly, and I think those experiences for you cause you to have to overcome certain insecurities, overcome certain fears, and those things that made you feel powerless, you went all in on them, and they became a superpower. Where now it's something you lead with,
Yes.
and you're courageous about. And so these are opportunities for us to reflect back on the things that made us feel powerless, that make us close our heart, that make us hold back our gifts, and then use these things that make us powerless into something powerful so we can serve others. And that's been the key.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm sitting here watching you going, dude, this is going to be groundbreaking work. Because if you have not met Lewis, he's a giant. He's a big man. He's a powerful man. He's a competitive man. And the complexity of who you become is so compelling to me, because there's this gentleness and kindness and softness that I think's come from you to other people, from giving yourself that gift.
Right.
I've watched you be a little kinder to yourself.
Yeah.
You said something there really powerful, man. I want to enlighten everybody on it. The container word you used.
Yeah.
It's okay, I've dealt with it, I'm working on it, I've put in a container, and I go back to my life. A lot of the things you have in here are about stories, and that we live our stories. And chapter 3 is the first thing I want to ask you about. Missing your meaningful mission. What causes someone to not know their mission and miss it? Is it they spend too much time in the former story? That they've taken meanings that don't serve them from the story? What causes somebody to do that?
All of that, and the fears that hold them back. And there's really 3 fears that I've identified, which is the fear of failure, the fear of success, and the fear of judgment. And when we can reflect on analyzing which one of these hold me back the most, and what is the root cause of me living in that fear, then we can start to, again, mend the wounds and create meaning from those wounds, and then create a new meaningful mission moving forward. For a lot of my life, I don't know if you've ever been in this place, I was so driven to succeed because I didn't feel enough.
Yes.
And I thought by succeeding, achieving, getting awards, getting followers, making more money would fill the hole of not feeling enoughness, not smart enough, not talented enough, not good looking enough, whatever it was. Is that something you've experienced in your past?
1,000,000,000% exactly
Right.
the same. Yes.
And for me, I don't know about you, but when I would experience success in sports and then early in business, it's almost like 20 minutes after I accomplished a goal of 10 years I was chasing, I was angry.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever felt that way.
100%.
Just angry, and I was kind of like mad at everyone around me. Like when everyone's celebrating me, I was kind of like, get away from me.
Yes.
And I didn't understand it until I started the healing journey about
Help me
10
understand
years ago.
it.
So this is what happened for me.
Okay.
I realized that my fear, when I started to dissect this, I was never afraid of failure, and I don't think you ever were either, because you're an athlete. And athletes who go through the journey of multiple sports, which we both played, multiple sports, we have coaches that say, hey, it's okay to fail, just adjust it a little bit, adjust your shot, adjust your swing a little bit. You're gonna miss it, but here's how you adjust it. It was always feedback, it was information. So it wasn't like you suck and leave if you fail. We failed every day.
Yes.
And we knew that this was the process to success.
I became familiar with failure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then the greatest, baseball players in the world fail 70% of the time, right? It's like they're failing constantly, but we celebrate them for their successes. And so I was never like ashamed to like miss a shot or fail, because I knew it was just practice. And I always wanted success, so I wasn't afraid of success. I wanted success for the wrong reasons, though, and that's why I was upset and angry when I would accomplish it. And I feel like I needed more. But I was like, I want to accomplish success. I'm excited about it, so I'm not afraid of it. But I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of the opinions of other people, and I was afraid of what people would say in front of my face, behind my face. Would they accept me? All these different things. When I ask people in a big room, who's afraid of failure? Most people raise their hand.
That's the pre-lift, right?
That's why they don't
So it's nice
do a
before
book,
we
or
even
a
start. Yeah.
podcast, or they don't start speaking on stage, or they don't start a new career, or ask the person out. They're afraid to fail. And I ask people, okay, for everyone who's afraid of success, raise your hands. And almost equally amount of people raise their hand who are afraid of success. And I never understood it, because I always wanted it. And over the last 10 years, I started to ask why. There's a documentary called The Weight of Gold.
Okay.
I want people to watch this at some point, because it's about Olympic gold medalists who go depressed, commit suicide, have overdoses within like 6 months or a year after they win the gold. If we do not prepare ourselves for success, it could cripple us. And the pressure of, okay, now friends and family want more from you. I know you are extremely wealthy, and you've had to deal with probably lots of people asking for things all the time. Can you give me money? Can you help me with this? Can you do this for me? And in some ways, it's a great privilege to be generous and supportive to people, but when it feels inauthentic, you feel like people are taking advantage of you. And so that pressure of success is real, and people don't want that responsibility. They're afraid of that pressure leaning into it. I always wanted it. But when I started to accomplish, I started to notice, I don't like some of these things that come with it as well. So I have to learn how to manage it. But it was the fear of judgment which always crippled me. So I was extremely self-critical of everything. Even when I broke the world record, even when I was a two-sport All-American, even when I played the USA handball team, even when I hit my first $1 million after I was broke, I was so self-critical, because at the root cause of all three of these fears is I am not enough.
Gosh.
And the I am not enoughness will destroy us. It will hold us back from our truest gifts, from expressing our love, from being generous, from being open. And that's the thing that I had to learn how to heal. Why do I not feel enough? No matter what I accomplish, I still don't feel enough. Why am I never satisfied with me? It was never about the accomplishments. It was always back to the root of me. I don't feel enough. I don't feel lovable, is what it really is. And I need to accomplish more in order for others to love and accept me. But really, at the end of the day, I did not love and accept myself. And when we can learn the art of loving and accepting ourselves authentically for all of our flaws and all of our beauty, that's when we can start stepping into true greatness.
Lewis, I feel like you just described me.
Really?
Yeah. Bro. Wow.
Tell me more.
Well, I don't even know that I have fixed that yet. I'm not sure. I think I've made progress on it, but this notion of, because what you just said, fear of failure, not too much. And people say, I'm afraid to succeed. I've always thought, and there's just people are different on their experience. I'm like, why would you be afraid of success?
I know.
But fear of judgment, holy smokes. I almost feel like you've created a new category that maybe if people really analyze it, a lot of us fit into that one.
Yes.
If you have a fear of failure, is it the failure you're afraid of or the judgment that would come with the failure? And so when I looked at category 3, I'm reading the book the other night because you gave it to me maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I'm like, oh man, fear of failure. It's like this old school fear of success. Yeah. Fear of judgment. Oh boy, he's on to something right here. And it is exactly what you just said. I am not enough. I'm not, and if you go even a little bit deeper, it's what you said. I had our mutual friend that you introduced me to, Leanne Rhymes, on my show. And I finally said to her in the interview, you know what my issue is? I can give love to people. I don't allow myself to feel loved.
Right.
And she said the same thing. And it's weird for two big dudes that are accomplished, you know, two guys sitting here to share this. But I think it's powerful that we are. I'm still not sure right now that that's not something that needs more exploration for me. That I'm still, and I wonder it with you too.
Yeah.
Is there a little bit, maybe I've made progress and it's reduced, but there are a lot of moments, if I'm being real, where I should be experiencing more joy than I do from something. I should be experiencing more love than I allow myself to experience. And it's pretty obvious to me that that's probably because my dad was an alcoholic and I probably lacked a little bit of that and all that anxiety. But you are on to something so huge here, which is the next thing you have in there, which is the dream killer, which is called self-doubt.
Yeah.
I feel like judgment and self-doubt are sort of related somehow.
Yeah.
Do you?
I think self-doubt is the killer of all dreams, and that's why I love you and your message, because you instill so much belief in people. You give people belief by your presence, by just your way of being. It's so powerful, and I think the whole game is learning how to believe in ourselves. That is the game of life, I think. It's what allows you to accomplish any goal you want, the more belief you have.
Yeah.
And I love your definition of self-esteem and self-belief. This concept is really being your word. You know, you've heard you say this a lot of times, like when you can live to your word and be that and honor it, or take responsibility when you're not with your word and take responsibility for that as well, you start to become more believable to yourself, and others believe you as well. You become a credible person to yourself and others, and that attracts more things. So self-doubt for me is the killer of dreams. And I think I wanted to ask you another thing. I'll follow up on that.
The interview in you always comes out, by the
I
way.
know. Well, I'm just curious because I wanted to ask you about, do you worry more about the judgments of other people, or do you worry more about the judgments of yourself about you?
I think it's moved from other people to me. And I think that was probably the cause the whole time. So it was easy for me to worry about what are they going to say, what are they going to believe, what if I fail here, opinions of others. But I feel like that's more the symptom. If I'm just answering you right now on the moment, on the fly. I think the disease is me not believing I'm worthy of it. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours that you're about to go see, and we were both describing to each other today. He's a very successful guy. That I still have a lot of imposter syndrome at 50 years old, and this dude has no reason to have any either, and he has it. And I think even sometimes I see this in you. Now, part of me thinks that's driven me to do extra work and prepare more. And that might work when you're starting, but it's a painful way to live your life.
It's exhausting later, too.
It's exhausting. I mean, I'm so glad you're saying that, because don't you feel that way, that if I don't, and I would like you to unpack that thing, I want to go back a little bit and stay there for a minute. This idea of working on healing oneself and loving oneself. Man, everybody listen to me. I know leveraging the dark side's a common thing, and it does work, and you should do it, and there's a great space for it for a while. But if it's the only thing that moves you, don't you agree? It's just eventually miserable.
It's exhausting
It's
after
exhausting,
a while.
right?
And I think, you know, we all have our own hero's journey to fall on that dark side, you know, early to push us. It's a driver to overcome something, right? But I think we've got to learn how to mend and heal at some point. Otherwise, it's going to constantly be exhausting and feel not enough. Or I'm always fighting something. I'm always trying to fight. And that was most of my life, was a fight. Everything was a fight.
Me too.
Relationship, competition, sports, business. It's all like a fight. And it's exhausting.
That you end up not winning.
Never.
Never.
And the people around you don't win either. So it's a lose-lose battle. And there might feel like there's certain moments of success, but it's a lose-lose. And so my emotional coach, I started this journey 2 years ago with her. And I've been doing different healing modalities for 10 years. 10 years ago, I opened up about sexual abuse for the first time. It was about 4 months after I launched my podcast, right? So it's almost been 10 years since I started talking about that process. And I thought, man, okay, that took about 2 years to go through a process of healing that and talking about it in a safe environment where I felt like I can speak about this and it no longer triggers me or affects me or has power over me. Like, I healed that memory and that wound. Now, it didn't mean but what I didn't, and I thought I was good, because I was like, okay, this is the main wound, but there's other stuff that I wasn't facing. And that's why I kept repeating patterns in relationships and intimacy and thinking, oh, I thought I healed this. But healing is not a one-time event. Healing is a journey, and it's a constant process. You're in progress, right? You're better than you were before, and I feel like I'm going to be healing for the rest of my life and constantly holding myself accountable. Because as you know, I'm sure things get you triggered from time to time, and you feel like, oh, this person did this, and I don't like it, and there's a reaction. I think that's our normal competitive edge, where it's like, I'm going to come back, I'm going to come at you.
Yep.
And that energy will fuel us to get results, but will not fuel us to get fulfillment. And so I've learned how to manage that energy, and I still get triggered and reactive and all these things. I'm not like this perfect human, but I do emotional coaching every 2 weeks to get me back to a place of peace, which just helps me integrate the lessons I'm learning, reflect on, oh, I went back into that place of pain. Let me keep integrating and keep healing. And just the more I practice it, like anything, the better it gets.
It's so apparent because you give off an energy now that's really loving and kind. Like Lewis does this thing when he hugs you. First off, he just swallows you up because he's massive. But he does this thing where he holds you a little bit longer than might be comfortable for you initially, and then you're like, this actually feels really good.
Yeah, well, some people don't like it, but I just keep doing it anyways.
I know exactly why you do it, and you're 100% right. If we're just talking as brothers here, you can think you've healed something, but if you haven't changed the patterns in which you live your life, like, for example, when my dad got sober, he fixed the issue with drinking alcohol, but he still had what they call like the alcoholic's personality.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Very obsessive. Went to anger quickly.
Yeah.
You know, would remove himself emotionally from situations. Didn't listen. Didn't pay attention very well. So the pattern stayed the same.
He wasn't doing the drinking, but he was still the personality.
That's exactly right. And I think that's an evaluation for everybody. And by the way, I think Lewis and I would both tell you, there's a place to leverage a dark side. 100%. A light that's just light all the time. Sometimes a little bit of the dark side makes the light side even brighter. But we're both telling you, you get to another side of this stuff, and you have to bring you with you eventually.
Exactly.
Right?
And our mutual friend, Dr. Joe Dispenza, says your personality becomes your personal reality. And so if you haven't, again, mended your personality that is fractured and causes you to be triggered or reactive or angry or lash out or close down or hold your heart back, then you're going to keep bringing that personal reality into your life. And so we've got to mend the things that caused us to have a certain personality that doesn't serve us or the people around us.
So good.
And I wanted to talk about success versus greatness, because most of my life I just wanted to be successful. And I was like, achieve, set a big goal, spend 10 years and do whatever it takes to make it happen. And that's what caused me to be angry after I would accomplish it. And so I just set bigger goals. And I was like, okay, I'm still not enough, but I got to make bigger goals. And what I realized is that I had success all wrong. I thought I wanted success, but what I really wanted was greatness, because success alone is selfish in my mind at this stage. And maybe I'm off, but this is my thoughts.
You're not off at all.
Success by itself is selfish because it's about my goals and my dreams. Greatness is about including my goals and dreams in the service of those around me, using them to impact my friends, family, or communities in a positive way as well, so that they are elevated also. So it's including your goals, dreams, and success, but also making it about others winning with you. For me, that's greatness versus success.
Oh my gosh. We were at a thing recently with a group of people, and it ended up you had to leave, and so we all sort of poured
So
some love
bummed I
onto
missed, because I wanted to hear your
it was good.
message.
It was actually
I know.
good. It was good. But we were all talking about, after you left, the wisdom. This is an interesting conversation, everybody, for me, because a lot of these, there's a few people in this world that, like, I don't know, they're my friends, but also I look at them almost like my sons, because I know the impact they can make in the world, and you're one of them. Like, I'm so excited about the impact. This distinction that you just described on my show, no one has ever said to me in my life. The difference between success and greatness. And the picture you just painted is some of the most is one of the most profound things anyone's ever said to me in my freaking life.
Wow.
Because I produced a lot of success in my life, and it wasn't until I got much later in my life, and I didn't know how to define it. You just did. It's not what I wanted. I wanted greatness. And the more I moved towards what you've described as greatness, my fulfillment level, my peace, and ironically, the things that I thought I wanted success-wise expanded exponentially.
You made more money. You
Way
accomplished
more. Way more. I wish someone would have told me this when I was young, and
know.
I'm so grateful that people are hearing this from you. There's just a part of me that's just very proud of you.
Thanks.
Because I know this work and the difference that it could make. It's almost like it's elevating the conversation to a place it's not been, and that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing.
I appreciate that. Before you go into the next thing, I wanted to, you're someone, I think we met, 5 years ago?
Yeah,
6 years
6
ago?
years, maybe, 6.
I remember hearing about you 6 months before I met you because I was at my friend's wedding on the lake that you have a house.
Yeah.
And I go, whose house is that? Because it's like literally right across from
right.
his,
Yeah.
was yours. And it's like, I was like, this is epic. And he goes, this guy, Ed Milet. And I go, who? And he goes, I think he's kind of like in your space. Like, he's an entrepreneur, speaker, this guy. I mean, in a whole nother league than me, but yes, in the same field. And I go, I've never heard of this guy. Never heard of Ed Milet.
That was
and
right
I felt,
when I was becoming a public person.
and I felt like I knew everyone in this space, or knew of.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty in tune to like who's putting out content and what's happening in the space. So I was like, I don't know who this guy is. And I think, if I'm reflecting on it, it sounds like you were driven by success before that moment, and then you started to have a transition period. And I think you told me, you're speaking with Tony and other people that were like, hey, it's time to really give back and serve and put yourself out there as a public voice. And that sounds like when everything even went further for you, because you said, I'm here to serve as well. And not that you weren't serving before, but you used your voice more.
Yeah, I didn't want to be a public person.
Right.
I didn't want to inconvenience myself, and that's when he called me out on it. And the more I began to realize that if I thought I was inconveniencing myself in the service of others, now I'm stepping towards greatness.
Yes.
And you just described it, and then that's when you and I have become, such dear friends. And one of the ways to unpack it, I'm telling you guys, this isn't just like a Pollyanna, like self-love book. There's stuff in here that is profound. And so one of the things you talk about to heal your past, to evaluate this judgment, fear of judgment, this is powerful because the quality of our life is the quality of the questions we're asking ourselves, and we have a pattern of asking ourselves the same unconscious questions all the time. And these questions you're internally asking yourself are usually about the judgment or your fears. You say on chapter 12, ask courageous questions. This is huge right here, because we don't ever think about the questions we ask ourselves. We just sort of autopilot through our lives, same thinking, same stuff, but it starts to me oftentimes with the questions we ask ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we get comfortable, we get safe, and it's hard to be courageous in our conversations with others and with ourselves. And one question that I reflect on a lot, and I know you think about this too, is what is the action I can do today that my future self would be really grateful for? What is the conversation I can do today that is going to be really painful, but on the other side there's going to be a lot of growth, and it's going to be closer to my dreams. What is the the things that I haven't risked enough, that I've been resisting, that if I just lean into it, I'm going to have freedom on the other side. And I think a lot of us want peace, clarity, and freedom, yet most of us don't have any of it. I didn't have it for a long time. I really didn't have peace, clarity, and freedom until 2 years ago. And I started this emotional coaching. In the first session, she said, what is your intention with our coaching? I said, peace, freedom, and clarity. I've got a lot of results, I've got a business, I've got success, but I don't have those things. So am I truly great if I can't feel peaceful, if I can't feel clear, and if I can't feel like a free man? Am I really great? No matter what I'm creating, no matter how many people I'm helping, I still don't feel like I have those things. So the question for me was, what's it going to take for me to feel them? What do I need to do? What's been holding me back from it? And really, how have I been abandoning myself where it causes me to feel trapped, not free, and not clear? And that was the start of the journey of creating peace, freedom, and clarity.
What do you mean by abandoning yourself?
See, I was really good in sports, business, with my team and things like this. I would create boundaries, and I wouldn't abandon myself. But when it came to intimacy and relationships, I would give in to create peace because I lacked courage to say exactly what I wanted or what I needed. So I did this multiple times where And I don't blame any of the previous partners I had. I wish them all well. I chose poorly, and I stayed out of fear when I knew I should have left certain relationships. So it's all my responsibility. But I lacked the courage to sit in a conversation with a previous partner when they were screaming at me. I lacked the courage to say, hey, this doesn't work for me. Hey, you can't do that. You can't scream at me. That doesn't work for me. That's not part of my values. And so I would allow it to happen, and in fact, I would say, what can I do? How can I end this pain right now? You need to do this. You need to do this. Okay, I'll do it, even though it's not my value. I'll do it to make you happy and buy peace. But we cannot buy peace. We must be peace. So I was not being peaceful in creating the boundary. I was abandoning myself to please another and discounting all my values and my self-worth for one human being. And again, I don't blame anyone else. This was me choosing the relationship and then choosing to stay in relationships because I had this athlete mentality, like I'm going to make it work. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to sacrifice everything to make you happy. And I was making myself miserable in the process and then just unconsciously repeating this time and time again in relationships. So again, I had yet to heal the wound. That's why I had a photo of my 5-year-old self and went back and said, where's the meaning I need to make so that I can create a boundary in my life, as opposed to give in to please one human being. Because pleasing one human being in the effort of discounting your entire mission is doing a disservice to yourself, to your creator, and to humanity. And that's what I was doing over and over again. So my energy was low, and I was trying to create from a low energy space, as opposed to, hey, this doesn't work for me. Let's create alignment, let's create agreements, and move forward. And when I started to do that in a previous relationship, they didn't want that alignment, that vision, those agreements. They wanted to be able to express how they wanted to express, which is fine with them, but that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So I had to remove myself from that relationship and start really mending and healing and saying, okay, that's why with Martha, it's been a beautiful experience, and you got to meet her.
She's amazing.
Because from the beginning, I was like, this is my values, this is my vision, this is my lifestyle, this is what I will do, this is what I won't do. And I've been able to courageously stay in that space and just say, she hasn't tried to cross boundaries or anything, but I've been able to say what I want and live by those values. And it creates peace, freedom, and clarity when I live up to that standard.
Oh boy, these last 5 minutes, buddy. That's like, rewind that one, listen to it again. There's everybody driving their car going, oh my gosh, I can relate to that. Holy smokes. All right, this is going to get real deep between you and me, but people get to listen to it, okay?
Bring it.
You don't know I was going here today. So you've made a lot of, you use the word progress, so I'll say that word, towards healing, towards greatness. And part of that is a spiritual journey. And one of the things that, I'm going to say it the way I believe it about you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You haven't figured out yet completely spiritually what you align with yet. You're pursuing it would be my description of it. And if I'm wrong, you correct me. But the reason I asked you that question, you didn't know we were going to go there today, is that I think everyone thinks they have to have every single element of their life figured out before they can experience some measure of peace. And I've watched you. You've had people from different religious backgrounds on. You go to one of my dear friends, Erwin McManus's church, intermittently. You go there. And I'm not here to talk about what you believe, but I want you to speak to the fact that part of greatness is, what you just said is so profound. Sadhguru probably said that on your show, and he did to me too, that we just need to be peace. We don't have to chase it. He said that to me about chasing happiness. He said, Ed, we don't have to chase it. We have to be it. We can access that at any time that we want. And so, but I want to ask you about that for a minute, that this notion of greatness is progress. Greatness is a journey that you don't have to have. I think sometimes people listen to me or others like, they got it all figured out.
Yeah.
I really hope I don't sound like that, because I don't have it all figured out. And I don't know that I want to have it all figured out. I have other breaths in my body because of the exploration, the expansion of my being, the expansion of my understanding, the expansion of my deep-seated beliefs in my life. So you're sort of in that journey too right now. Is that fair to say as a friend?
100%, yeah. I mean, I believe in a God. I believe there was a creator that created me in a beautiful image and likeness of love.
Yeah.
And the goal is, how do I stay in the frequency of love as frequently as possible? And that's been what I've been constantly focusing on. And I think when you experience pain or suffering or just challenges mentally and emotionally, we question things. You know, why am I feeling this? What's wrong with me? Why would God do this to me? Or whatever it is. And so my whole journey has been asking questions, being curious about life and why I'm here. And I think a lot of us want to know why we're here.
I think all of us want to know why we're here.
Exactly. And my goal really in the last 2 years is understanding that I am love. I am a beautiful light. And I am here to serve the creator of love. And to stay in that frequency as often as possible. And I'm constantly curious about lots of people of lots of different beliefs and faiths because I feel like everyone has a different perspective. So I'm always going to have a curious mind about that and know that, you know, it's funny because I've got a Catholic symbol on my chest that my girlfriend gave me, and I've got a Christian Science symbol, which is the religion I grew up in, which the whole...
He's wearing them right now.
Which the whole symbol is... how to heal yourself. That's the whole premise of Christian Science, which for those asking, it's different than Scientology. It's a different concept, but it's about healing yourself. And I don't prescribe to either religion. You know, I don't prescribe to Mosaic necessarily as like, this is my faith, but I love messages and messengers who speak about love.
And I love that you're in the greatness pursuit of it.
Yes.
For me in my life, my faith has been my source of peace.
Yes.
Has been my source of love. And I'm proud of you for having the courage to experience it. And you're going to land where you land at some point. But I want everybody to know that a lot of this work that you're all doing, I'm going to be honest, is leading to the ultimate question of all of these courageous questions with who am I?
Who am I? Why am I here?
Why am I here? And for me, the fact that at least in my life at my age, I feel like that question for me has been answered in my faith. And for me, that's my salvation in the sense that for me, is a personal relationship we have with God. It's a personal decision. It's a personal acceptance or surrender. But for me, you know, I'm very much an energy guy. I'm very much a vibrational frequency guy. I love the quantum field. But to deny the existence of that, to me, would be to deny principles of the universe. It would be like to deny gravity. Just in my case, there's a creator. And that creator, as you know, is a Christian, is Jesus. But that answer for me, that the underlying question of the greatness mindset is, who am I and why am I here?
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you because I've watched this profound... When I say you've made a transformation, it makes it sound like you really need it. You were already a remarkable human being when I met you.
Thank you.
To see someone who's already so remarkable be so addicted to the expansion of their being, the understanding of their being, and to be in the presence of someone who's doing that. And I think it's okay in life not to have every answer figured out,
100%.
but to be curious in the pursuit of it is such a great way to live your life. And I would just encourage all of you in your way. You know the answers I've come to. I'm very public about that. But to go find those answers in your life because it's the ultimate answer.
Absolutely.
And it's the ultimate question.
Absolutely. And I feel like, 10 years ago, I found healing in certain areas. And right now, I feel like I've got more healing and more awareness based on mistakes and experience and time and lessons. And I'm sure in 10 years, when I have kids and married and family, there's going to be new lessons to learn and new healing.
There are.
And so that's, I'm excited about the journey.
And you ask questions, you guys just know, Lewis is like so curious. He's always asking me questions about being a dad and being a husband. And he's not one yet. And he's already preparing because he asks those courageous questions all the time. He's wanting to learn. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional being with you because I'm just so proud of you. And
thank you.
And I also just believe that as you're on this journey, like there's an ultimate place you're going to land, and I can't wait for that for you, wherever that is. But I want to ask you another tough question.
Bring it.
There's this notion of self-love, yet how does one dance with, I love myself and I'm enough, but yet at the same time, people would say, but wait a second, you're overeating and you're out of shape, or you're not making the contacts in your business you should, or you're not living in your relationship the way that you should. So it's great that you love yourself and accept yourself, but there's a bunch of stuff you're doing right now that's really,
That's out of alignment.
it's out of alignment.
Yeah.
So how do you nuance that?
When we get clear on our meaningful mission, which I think is like the foundation of all of this, we can start to ask ourselves every day, did I make the decisions today and did I live the behaviors today that serve the meaningful mission or not? And it's just a barometer to see if we're on the right path. You know, I've made a ton of mistakes in my life, and some things I've done great and other things I haven't done great. And for me, it's just like, okay, I know that, notice the feeling, it doesn't feel right inside of me. So if I keep doing this, I'm going to get feedback in my life that support the things that I'm out of alignment with. I'm going to have breakdowns, problems, health challenges, palpitations, whatever it is, that are feedback that something is not in full alignment of the meaningful mission. That's why I think we got to get clear in one sentence, what is the meaningful mission of our life in this season of life?
Okay.
And some people listening or watching might be in a season of, I'm broke, just trying to get a job and figure out my life right now. Cool. I had that season on my sister's couch where I just wanted to make money to get off the couch and make my own have my own apartment. That was my whole life mission, because I couldn't think beyond it. But if you're in a transition or a season of wanting to re-explore your life and maybe a transition from a relationship or career or business, like there were a lot of people this last weekend who were kind of in transition that weren't clear.
Yes.
They didn't know what their mission was. And you watched it just as I did. If you're not clear on a mission, it doesn't matter how much money or success you have or how comfortable your life is, you feel unfulfilled.
That's right.
And so when in my one sentence mission, meaningful mission, is to serve and impact 100 million lives weekly to help them improve the quality of their life. It's clear for me what I'm trying to do. Now there's certain mechanisms I could take that could support that mission, that cause. And I lean into my talents and my superpowers that support it the best way that I know. And so that I make decisions on a daily basis and I reflect at the end of the night and say, did I act in accordance of serving the mission appropriately?
Very good.
If I didn't, which I haven't many times in the past,
Sure, me too.
I feel something's off. I don't sleep that well that night. I ruminate about it. You know, I've had conversations with you privately about like, oh, you know, I was out of integrity here. And you get feedback in life. It's just the laws of physics. You do something out of integrity, it's going to come back and hurt you personally or around you. It's going to hurt you at some point in time. It's going to affect you. It's going to stay with you until you clear that energy and space.
Yes.
Until you own it and take full responsibility. Until you mend it and heal and whatever you got to do in that process. And so I reflect and say, did I do everything today on my calendar and in my schedule, which you're a big schedule guy. I know you do 3 days in one day. And calendar and schedules for me, am I taking the actions that will serve the meaningful mission? And is it clear this is the best decision I can make today?
Is the meaningful mission something that you saw as a through line with a lot of people in the School of Greatness?
100%.
That's one of the through lines.
100%. They were very clear on their vision. I call it a meaningful mission because it includes the service of others.
Yeah,
I think people were clear on their vision of their goals and dreams. And a lot of them included others, but not everyone.
Yeah.
And so there's world champions that fell from grace because they weren't including others, and so they didn't stay on the top. The ones that stay on top impact the people around them in a positive way. They bring them up, and they stay up there. And so for me, it's about being so clear on that so that you're guided by that. Now, it doesn't mean, and I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I also had a mission to be an Olympian, and for 8 years, I represented the USA national team for a sport called team handball. They just had the World Championships in Denmark this last week, and I wasn't there, and I haven't played in 2 years. But for 8 years, I played in the Pan American Championships twice. I traveled to Israel, played against the national team there. I traveled to the UK, Spain, played professionally for a while. Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Mexico, Canada. I traveled the world and played against Olympians. But even though my dream didn't come true of that mission, the experience was a dream come true. The lessons I learned, the people I met, the moments I have, standing there with USA against my chest, holding my heart, and singing the national anthem before international competition are memories that I will cherish forever. I'm getting chills thinking about it because those were dreams of mine. to represent my country and play an Olympic sport and have a chance to go to the Olympics. And I did not accomplish the goal. After 8 years of sacrificing, traveling, and working abroad, doing webinars from the middle of another country and trying to run my business while training with the USA team, I did not accomplish the goal I set out. But man, it was a dream come true. And I think we can also beat ourselves up so much with the results that we don't hit, as opposed to focus on who we become in the process of trying to achieve it. And so my first couple books, I was so focused on the result. And I remember the second book, it didn't hit the New York Times bestseller list, and I was kind of upset for like a week. There was a little bit of like anger and resentment, if I'm being honest. Even though I knew I had a good intention that I wanted to serve men from that book and help people, but it's like, hey, the competitive in me was like, I want to hit that, right? And I can honestly say with this book, I'm in so much peace in my heart that I'm like, the results are going to do whatever the results do. All I can focus on, and I know people say this all the time, but I truly feel it. All I can focus on is giving my best in each element of the process of the promotion of the book. All I can do is I wrote the best book I can write. I can be proud of the process and the product. I can't worry about the results. I can try to hit the results, but it's like everything I'm becoming and experiencing in the process is what I'm cherishing more now, and it was hard to do for a long time because I wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, you're so right. I think of even people that are great in a sport. Maybe they haven't lived a perfect life, but even like Tiger. Tiger is always talking about, I'm focusing on the process. I want to put myself in a position to win. He's not obsessed with necessarily winning. Getting in a position to win, doing the things that would cause him to win, the experience and the journey. So meaningful mission, and then we're going to finish with something that you didn't know we were going to go to. But meaningful mission in your life, you should ask yourself if you have one, and your recommendation of the book is that it should be able to be said in one sentence, correct?
I think so. The clearer, the better. I think so.
And I think if you don't have a meaningful mission, it's difficult to have a measurement. It's difficult to know what you're pursuing. It's difficult to have a barometer to make decisions in your life.
Exactly.
So I completely acknowledge that.
And I'd love for people watching or listening to, send you a message and tag you over on Instagram and say,
sure,
here's my meaningful mission in one sentence. And maybe you can give some feedback to people of like, okay, that's cool, I'll work on this.
I would love
that.
But
if you're listening or watching, like send Ed a message on Instagram and just say, in one sentence, here's my meaningful mission. You can either write it and send a photo, you can send a video, but send Ed a message with your meaningful mission.
I would love that, everybody. And I will get back to you as best I can because we're going to get a bunch of them. There's other things in the book, guys, that I want you to get this book about accepting the challenge and defining your greatness goals. And there are two things that I want to finish with because I don't think enough people do this, and it's all over the place if they were willing to do it. You talk about enlisting support. And one of the things that always makes me very embarrassed when I get introduced somewhere is like that somehow I have something someone else doesn't have. And I'm like, if you knew all the freaking people who helped me, that supported me along the way, I would be lost without other human beings.
Yes.
And other humans have been so good. By the way, I've had a lot of humans hurt me too. So have all of you. And sometimes when that happens, we form this belief that that's all humans. But there's been these other precious humans in my life that have supported me in long-term and short-term. Some of them were just in one moment. But you talk about in the book about enlisting support, that you're not alone in your life or the pursuit of your life. My faith informs me that this is true, like we talked about earlier. So touch on that, and then I want to finish with a tough one for you.
Yeah, I just think, I never did anything, I never accomplished anything without great coaches and great teammates as an athlete. You couldn't have accomplished your athletic career success without the teammates you had around you, your coaches, your parents, your friends, the fans cheering you on. All these things wouldn't have happened without so many people involved. And I looked at my life as a sport after athletics, where I said, I need great coaches. I need great mentors with a model that I can mimic. Yeah. I need this process because I can't do it all on my own. And I think it's twofold. It's enlisting support and having the courage to reach out and ask for support. And it's also being willing to acknowledge yourself for all the hard work and everything you've overcome. So I think a lot of people discount themselves too much. When they get acknowledged, and I know you are a master at the art of acknowledgement. It's something that I love about you so much, that you acknowledge everyone in your life so consistently and openly.
You do too.
Thank you. I've modeled it from you. And for me, a lot of us struggle receiving compliments, it's like the self-awareness around the actual effort and the actions that we're taking.
Yep.
We discount it too frequently as
right.
human beings.
Yep.
And I think we get to practice just receiving and saying thank you. It's just leaving it at that. We don't have to, it wasn't anything. And I used to do that a lot.
Me too.
Right?
Yes.
Well, no, I could have done better. Or it's like just receive and say thank you so much. I appreciate it. You don't have to boast about it. You don't have to discount it. Receive and say thank you. And I think if we can start to acknowledge everything we've overcome and everything we've created, as well as the support of others, that's when there's some beautiful harmony in life, and you start to attract more.
You're so right. I don't even know when it happened, but I started finally just going, and my intuition was like, no, and that's that thing with me not wanting to feel love. Like if I accept that I really worked hard here and you saw it, I might feel loved for a second here, and that's not my pattern.
Yeah.
And so,
and that hasn't gotten me here.
Right.
Not feeling loved made me force myself to get the results I'm getting. So I can't receive love because it's not going to give me the drive anymore.
brother.
So we got to learn how to drive from a place of service, of a place of a meaningful mission to impact the world. Not because I'm not enough and I need to feel enough. But if you tell me I'm enough, then I'm not going to drive as much.
Yeah, brother. I just love it because that's exactly why I didn't do it. I'm like, no, this is sort of kind of worked for me.
It's what got me here.
It got me here. It got me success without fulfillment. It got me success without greatness. And a lot of times in our life, we're like, if I let go of that one thing, intuitively, you should, this behavior. Maybe it's that you're so demanding and angry with people. Like, yeah, but I that's why I won. Or I've neglected my family, but that's why I'm wealthy. It's probably in spite of that, but you've created a pattern that's convinced yourself that it's true.
And I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you didn't.
You know that the secret to life is relationships.
Yes.
And the secret to successful relationships is vulnerability and showing up for other people. And there's a lot of people that in the public eye who love to have a chip on their shoulder and talk about the chip on their shoulder in sports specifically. And you see later in their life how it helped them become champions over and over again, but then they go through divorce.
Yeah.
Then their kids don't speak to them. Then they have heart attacks or whatever it might be. So yes, it drives people to accomplish.
Yeah.
But if we aren't living in a relationship world and serving the people around us, while first serving and supporting the inner child in front of us that needs that love, then we're going to miss out.
Brother, you're so right. You and I are privileged to know many of those people.
Yes.
And if they knew behind the scenes, you'd be like, you may think that stuff worked for them, but if life is a bliss, happiness, and peace game, they lost.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. Speaking of relationships, my last question to you is about your dad.
Yeah.
And you lost your dad recently, like I lost mine. And my relationship with my dad wasn't perfect. And even after my dad got sober, even though he was my best friend, I think sometimes people are sort of like, and man, it was happily ever after all the time.
It wasn't.
It's real life.
Yeah.
And these relationships we have with family or the people that raised us are so informative to who we become. They're so informative in the patterns we create towards the pursuit of our greatness or the lack thereof. And I know enough to know that you lost your dad before you lost your dad.
Yeah.
And then even before you lost your dad, there was a relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
How did losing your father the first time, if you can tell everybody, I know, but I want them to know, until you actually physically lost him, and even prior to that, how has it impacted you? How has it made you wiser? How has it caused you to reflect on your own life? And like, I know for me, man, when my dad passed away, I'm like, wow, I guess my time's limited too.
Yeah.
You know, like, people die.
Mm-hmm.
I think I used to think everyone else died.
But not,
Not my mom and dad, not me. Like, I know it sounds nuts, but like, I didn't live as if it was going to end at some point. How did your relationship with your dad overall, tell him about it, and impact your life?
Yeah, my dad was extremely loving human being, but had a lot of anger too, kind of similar to your dad. So he showed me he loved me a lot, but I also feared him immensely. Until he started to have a transformation when I was about 13, 14 years old. He started to do a lot of his own healing. And then I had a different relationship with my father. So the first 13 years, he would tuck me in bed and tell me he loved me and say the Lord's Prayer every night with me. He would come home after a long day of work and, play catch in the backyard. He would make time for me. He would take me to places. He would support me, coach me, all those things. But he and my mom never had a really good relationship. So there was always fear and uncertainty at home when they were around. It's like when they weren't around, I felt peaceful. When they were around, they just didn't know how to model love well to each other. They both loved us, right? Us kids. So it was just kind of confusing. And when I left home at 13, I begged my parents to send me away to private boarding school because I didn't feel in a good space at home. And I was the youngest of four, so my older siblings were kind of all off to college and out of the house. And I was just like, I don't want to be here. And I also didn't have good friendships. I was just kind of an awkward kid and struggled. And I begged them to send me away. And for the whole summer, I begged them, and they finally agreed at the end of the summer to send me away. They didn't want me to go. I begged them to leave. And the day I left, I felt like a sense of like peace not being around them. I still missed them, but I was like, I don't want this stress, right? This kind of underlying fear and tension of their inability to love each other to affect me anymore. They just didn't have the tools, so I don't blame them. It is what it is. They got married when they were 19, had a kid right away. It was just they didn't know. My dad started to go through a healing journey around that time, and it was like he was the most loving, generous, kind human being for the next, I guess, 6-7 years, right? Until he got into a car accident where a car came through the SUV came on top of his car. The bumper came through the windshield and hit him in the head. He was in a coma for 3 months. He was, they opened up the car, they airlifted him out in a helicopter to a hospital. He was on a vacation with his then girlfriend at the time. My parents got divorced many years prior to this. And we didn't know if he was going to live or die. I got the news the night before a football game when I was playing in college football. And I remember thinking, like, I have no idea. We didn't know if he was alive. That was the thing. He was in a coma. We didn't know. I was like, should I play? Should I not play? Like, what would my dad want me to do? He was like, I was thinking he'd want me to play, The second to last game, or the second to last play of the game, I catch a ball and I get speared by a helmet right in the ribs and I break 3 ribs. And I'm thinking, my season's over. My dad, I don't know if he's alive still. My season's over. I just broke 3 ribs. What now? I ended up having a pretty miraculous healing and recovery based on my faith, actually. And I healed my 3 ribs based on the faith of my religion. And I went into my practice. My dad was in a coma for the whole season in New Zealand. And I couldn't fly the first few weeks because of the injury. And so I decided to stay. My sisters went, and I was like, okay, he's not waking up. What do I do? He'd probably want me to keep playing, I think. So that was the thing I did. I played the whole season. He comes back 3 months later after the season. And he can't speak. He can barely walk. And he just looked like a different guy. So I'm expecting him to come back and have this full recovery. I'm hoping that he remembers everything. A year, 2, 3, 5 years go by, 10 years go by, 15 years go by. He can walk and talk, but he has no drive. He can't work anymore. He sits at home every day and watches movies. When I see him, he says, "What's your name again?" He can speak, but he'd be like, "Didn't you used to play football? Where'd you go to school again?" So we could have a conversation, but he didn't have his memories. So it was so painful to be in front of my father, who I loved and cared about deeply, who I felt like was just getting started in his life after starting this healing journey and having a new kind of lease on life. And he was an amazing father at this point. For the previous 6 years, he was like a transformed, loving human being. But he was also a crutch for me because he had a life insurance business that he built up for 33 years with Northwestern Mutual, his own independent office in a small town, Delaware, Ohio. And he just grinded for 30 plus years to finally make enough money where he could do stuff. And I saw him work so hard for so long to like then have like some money to like play with and travel and buy a new car. He never had a new car. He always had like 20-year-old cars and just lived that life. So I saw him enjoying his life fully for the first time for about 5-6 years. And he always said, hey, listen, go chase your dreams. Go live every dream you have. I support you. He would pay for training and coaching, whatever it was to like be the best athlete I could be. Go. And when you're done, you can come back and work for me. So it was always kind of like, come back and I'll teach you up and you can take over the business one day type of mentality. And I remember doing an internship for a summer, and I was just like, I don't think this is for me. You know, it's not my thing. I could do it, but it's not like my destiny. And I think his accident and then my injury after pursuing, you know, playing professional football and getting injured and breaking my wrist, I was really kind of in a dark space for about a year and a half, just trying to figure out, like, who am I? Asking these courageous questions. Who am I? Why did this happen? Is my dad ever going to come back around? And having to kind of accept after about 4 years that he may never be the person he once was, and loving him for who he is now, which was extremely hard because he didn't really want to be around us. I'd go visit him, and after an hour, he'd be like, I'm tired, leave.
Remember you telling me.
Because before that, all he wanted to do is like shower us with love and be around us and encourage us. And he was like this cheerleader celebrating us. So it's hard to have that and then see a guy that you know wants to do that, but the brain trauma, it just affected his brain so much where he wasn't able to do it anymore. And kind of grieving a little bit of that, but accepting it and just experiencing it for 17 years. It was just painful. I don't know what else to say. It was painful. But what it did for me is it made me live in extreme urgency. It made me so focused on my life and overcoming every insecurity and every fear because I didn't want to live in regret. And I realized this could be taken away from me at any moment. Like, he wasn't planning on having this injury that day. And it happened, and it changed his life forever. And I was just like, I never want to let my fear hold me back from pursuing something. That's why I moved to New York City to pursue a dream of making the Olympics. I go, if this dream is in me, I got to at least try it. And if it doesn't work out, at least I tried. And I gave it a full effort. I mean, I went all in on it. I went to Spain and played professionally for a while. I was traveling the country. I was traveling the world, investing so much in the dream. And again, the dream didn't come true, but it was a dream come true experience. Yeah. And I don't have regrets thinking, I wonder what it would have been like to go try to make the USA national team and play in the Olympics. My dad gave me that gift through his injury. He also gave me the gift of, like, I had to grow up as a man that day. And I didn't have his guidance. I didn't have his mentorship. I didn't have his money supporting me. I didn't have his home. I didn't have anything to fall back on. And it was probably the greatest lesson because I don't think I would have ever been an entrepreneur. I don't think I would have ever launched the show, written books. I don't think I would have cared about humanity the way I do if his accident didn't happen. And the funny thing is, I don't think I've ever told this. I saw him 2 days before he left for this trip. We were at a family camp, a YMCA camp in Ohio. And we do this every year as a family and go there. And it's kind of like you just play games and hang out and go on the lake and stuff like that. And there was something off about my dad. He was sitting by himself on a couch in kind of the mess hall where you eat lunch and dinner. He was sitting there alone on a couch. And I went over to sit next to him, and he just looked like something was off. And I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but I sat next to him. I go, Dad, are you excited about your trip? Because he was going to go on this trip with his girlfriend to New Zealand. I said, are you excited? He goes, I'm really excited. I go, what are you excited about? He said, I'm excited to have a spiritual journey. And I get kind of like just chills thinking about it because I go, what do you mean a spiritual journey? He goes, I'm really excited to dive into my faith and dive into my, the Bible. And there's another book in Christian Science called Science and Health, the Key to the Scriptures, which is kind of like a complementary book about the science of the Bible, the science of Jesus, and how these things happened based on science. He goes, I'm really excited to dive into my faith and dive into my books. And like dive in deeper into my faith. But something just felt weird. Like he just had an energy. It's almost like he knew this was going to happen. But when I sensed like something was off, and I was just like, I'm really excited for you, Dad. It's going to be a great trip. And it was just so weird because I'd never seen him have this energy ever before this moment. and then it made sense later. And I really think, all of us kids had to have that experience for all of our own individual lives. Yeah, reasons. And there's no way that I would have had the courage to do what I'm doing, because I didn't think I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know how to make money. I didn't think anyone paid me for anything. But it almost forced me to be so courageous on everything. And I think if I had him as a backup plan or a safety net, I don't think I would have taken action the ways I have in these last 15 years. And I don't think that I would care deeply about people the way I do if that didn't happen. So in some ways, his greatest pain and the greatest struggle I went through was also my greatest gift.
Brother, one of the best stories of all time.
Thanks.
And really glad we went there today. There's a million lessons from your dad for you in your journey in your life. One of them, just to consider, is that maybe you're supposed to finish that for him.
Yeah.
Maybe he never got to finish that spiritual journey, and maybe that's the one you're really on, which is what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the one you're really on. And I just have that feeling. And I think all of these ripple effects from that experience of, thank God you got those good years with him. And how remarkable it is to me to know that now that your dad's passed and he's in heaven, he has all the understanding.
I know.
And that maybe for the first time, he actually knows who you've become.
I know.
And to think
I
that
know.
this little boy, this little Lewis Howes growing up, who had these just totally unfair things happen to him that should never happen to a little boy. And then to have the strife in your home, plus the situation that happened with you with the abuse. Then to at least get 5 or 6 good years with your dad. Then to lose him. And then to have this journey that was all your own of all the healing you had to do. And the fact that your dad's passed away recently, he's got to heaven, and now he's realized who his son's become.
I know.
Millions of people's lives you've changed, bro.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. And maybe the last part of that journey is that he didn't get to finish that after those 2 days. Maybe it's yours to finish.
I know.
And that was the middle of the interview. That's why I know now why I asked you that question. So
Yeah.
I just absolutely am so freaking proud of you.
Thanks, man.
And I love you so much.
Thank you.
And you're such a great force for greatness now in the world. And by the way, everybody, so is this book, The Greatness Mindset by Lewis Howes. You need to go get this book right now. You can tell from the spirit of this man, he just, he's elevated himself, his understanding of himself and life to a place that there's a lot to learn from him. Real grateful for you, bro.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank-
We're all on the journey, man. The journey to greatness is just beginning. I feel like you and I have learned so much, but it's like we're still at the beginning
100%.
every day.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that we just keep asking questions and seeking out wisdom from so many people. So.
Well, I love that you call it a journey. It's not a destination. That's for darn sure. You know, man, I'm really grateful that on some level we're on this journey together.
Me too, man.
And that we're going to spend our lives doing this together. Hey, guys, tell me this wasn't a good one today. This was so good. Looking back in the back, and everybody's all excited. So I love you.
Love you
Thank
too, brother. Thanks, Ed.
Go get the book, everybody. Hey, when you're grabbing it, grab another power or one more. Goes good as a good tandem. And please share this. This is one of these today. I have a feeling I don't have to ask you guys to share. But if you would share, I sure would appreciate it, because there's someone's life who could be so impacted by what Lewis shared with all of us today. So please share it. God bless y'all. Max out your life.
The foundation of that is your daily habits. It's creating winning habits, winning routines, and a winning mindset. That's the formula. It is. There's no way around it.
It
It
is.
doesn't have. Got to start the process. As an entrepreneur, I think like the number one thing is start. You never have it all figured out. It's never the right time. You never have enough experience. But if you let that slow you down until you have it's the right time and the right experience, my advice would be like, if you really want it, you will figure it out. But if you're just telling yourself you want it because like you think you do, it's not gonna happen. You have to want it, right? Like people ask me, like, what's the silver bullet? You can go through all these strategies and techniques. At the end of the day, I think people want one. We all want the same thing. We want to feel.
Welcome back to Max Out, everybody. I'm Ed Milet. Today's show is going to be ballistic. So I'm sitting next to the real life Dos Equis man. One of the most interesting people I have ever met in my life. This man has a resume that is too long to even start the introduction with today. And we're going to talk about that today, like life resumes. But to put it mildly, this is someone who started the company Marquis Jet. He ends up selling that to Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway. Started a water company that he sold to Coca-Cola. He's run 100 miles in one day before. He's a father of 4. He's married to one of the most successful female entrepreneurs in the country, and Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. And most importantly for me, he is one of the most giving and generous people with his time, his information, and his energy that I have ever met in my life. And I'm literally, look at this. I'm getting goosebumps because I've been really looking forward to today. So everybody, this is Jesse Itzler. Jesse, thanks for being here, man.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Have we had good conversations off camera? Or what?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good. I wish we were recording the whole time. So, the other thing I didn't say too is I also think you're one of the greatest speakers in the world too, from the stage as well. So any of you looking for speakers, this is a guy that you ought to be talking to. So you're going to get a flavor for that today. So let's help some people.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we can go all the way back to the beginning. I want people to know a little bit about your background, because I think one of the things that fascinates me the most about you is your willingness to do things that you're not prepared for. I think like going into the unknown, it seems to be one of these things that about you that's very unique, but also is a trait that I see in people that win at really high levels. So talk a little bit about, we could start with any of the businesses you've had, but did your upbringing at all like prep you into being this sort of type of person you are? Like when you grew up, did you know you were going to turn out this way or no, not at all?
I always was dancing to my own drum. My parents gave me a really long leash, which was a great gift for me growing up. They let me do whatever I wanted to do within reason.
Yeah.
And I always, all of us, we always come against this wall of fear. This crazy wall of fear. And you can either go to the wall and turn around, or you can go through the fucking wall.
Yes.
And I always, every time I went around, turned around and went back home because I was too scared, I had crazy resentment. Or crazy guilt that I wasn't able to do it. Regret, not resentment.
Yeah.
Regret.
Yeah.
And every time I went through the wall and got to the other side, it was so addicting. And I was so proud of myself. So let me just give you a quick example. When I was growing up, I grew up in New York City, or on Long Island in the 80s when breakdancing and rap and all this stuff was happening.
Yep.
And I was really into breakdancing. I don't look like it, but get some cardboard out here, man.
We need to do that.
Something.
Mike, get some cardboard.
Okay. And I decided that I could make more money probably if I went to Washington, D.C., because the kids in Washington, D.C. couldn't be as good as the kids in New York. We invented this whole genre.
Okay.
So I got my friend Myron, who's my partner. My sister just got her driver's license, and I convinced her to drive us to Washington, D.C. And the whole drive down, I was having all that self-doubt.
Yeah.
At a young age, 14, 15 years old, what if the kids are better? What if no one shows up? What if we get booed? What if we go there and I stink?
Yeah.
And so I was almost talking myself out. I was building the wall of doubt up brick by brick in my own head.
Yeah.
And when we got there, we went to a little bank in Georgetown, and we set up a boom box in a parking lot of a bank, and we hit play, and my friend started spinning on his head, and he passed it to me, and the crowd gathered around. And ultimately, after I did my thing, more people came. I took my hat and I passed it around, and we made about $200. I paid my sister for the gas money, and then Myron and I split $82, $41 each. Awesome. And this guy, he's counting up the money, and he's counting up the money, and he gets all the money, and then he sprints over to me and he gives me a bear hug, and he goes, "Jess, we're fucking rich." And what the reason why we were rich is because on that particular trip, despite all the fear, this young little kid that was so scared, I went around that wall and I realized I could be rewarded. And I was like, I want more of that. I was writing sports songs after the Knicks song with my partner. We set up a company to write theme songs for professional sports teams. And I did that for a year and a half, and we sold that company to a public company called SFX.
You did.
And it was the gentleman that owned SFX that had a timeshare on a jet that invited us as guests, and that's how we got exposed to the world of private aviation.
So you're flying on this jet. Was it the first private jet you'd been on?
Oh yeah.
So you're on a private jet and you take this flight, and rather than just enjoying the flight, you get off the flight and go, what?
No, first I walked on the plane and it was like the scene in The Wizard of Oz when everything goes from black and white to color. And I was like, people fly like this? We want to fly like this. Look. And we literally were like, let's start a private jet company so we can fly privately because we definitely can't afford it.
That's crazy.
And we were
But
like,
did you know anything about jets? Did you own a jet? Did
No.
you? Nothing. So you knew nothing about jets. You didn't own a jet. You never
but I
been in a
knew that if we wanted to take 2 or 3 trips a year to go skiing with our friends or take our college friends on a trip, or my partner had a family and he wanted to go away for Thanksgiving, if we knew that if we had a need for, not for hundreds of hours, but for maybe 25 hours, there's got to be a lot of people like us. And that's really where the idea started from. It's like, how can we make flying privately a little bit more affordable, more to the masses, and how can we solve the problem? Like, how can we eliminate all the pain points of owning your own private plane, like, you know, the pilots, the scheduling, the maintenance, all that, and provide all the benefits. And that's what we created this 25-hour jet card called, which ultimately was called Marquee Jet.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So here comes the note-taking time, all you entrepreneurs out there, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have these ideas. So that's great that you had the idea, and brilliant, but idea to execution to business to profitability to selling it is a completely different idea altogether. How in the world do you end up somehow getting NetJets to allow you to use their jets somehow to do this card, right? How the hell did that happen?
Well, first of all, you know, we thought about what's the fastest way to get from point A to point B. Okay, that was the starting point. And we realized that we needed airplanes, obviously. You can't have a private jet company without airplanes. And for us, there were only there was only 2 games in town, or 1 game in town. It was NetJets, owned by Warren Buffett. You know, they had 650 planes in the fleet. So we were able to get a meeting, you know, through a couple of phone calls, and in the meeting, we got thrown out of the first meeting in like 12 minutes. They're like, the CEO was like, there's no way we're giving 2 kids access to our airplanes.
You got thrown out of the first
We got thrown out. They literally said, there's no way we're giving 2 kids. He said, that probably didn't break 1,000 on their SAT, which we talked about, which pissed me off. I got a 980.
You got a 980. Just so you know, in the history of interviews, so he's 9. This is so wonderful. So you end up being on the same label as Young MC. I end up being a paid for free backup dancer for a few weeks for him. People are laughing their asses off, I know right now, rolling their eyes. He gets a 980 on his SATs. I'm in the high 7s. I'm a 780 SAT, and we've both ended up becoming, you know, very successful entrepreneurs. This should give everybody out there hope who thinks their prior resume somehow dictates their future resume, and that's not the case whatsoever. And so you get kicked out. He literally quotes your SAT score back to you.
I'm not giving you guys 28, 29 years old access to my airplanes. And you know, our starting point is we have to convince them. We have to have a lot of conviction. We're the business plan. They're betting on us. And the question we asked ourselves, I think, you know, the starting point for any entrepreneur when you're going to give a pitch, what's in it for them? What's in it? What are we going to say to convince them that they want to do business with us? And for us, it was like they were catering to a much older demo. And we were 28, 29 years old. In my music business, I had access to athletes and entertainers just from the videos and just being in the scene. I lived in New York. I was connected to that world. That was my demo and age group. So we offered the ability to attract much younger athletes, entertainers that we said, look, if these guys are introduced to your fleet, they're going to be customers for the next 50 years. And think about the lifetime value of that customer. Give us a shot. If it doesn't work, there's not, like, no harm, no foul. And they said, you know what, we'll give you guys a shot.
So the second meeting, they say, we'll give you a shot.
Put up your own money. We'll give you guys a shot.
Okay, and now, this is one of my favorite stories of all time, literally of all time. So now you get a yes, which is just incredible. The idea to get in there to pitch, to get kicked out, to come back in, to get a yes. Now the issue is, though, you have no clients. So that theory sounded great. By the way, a lot of people, entrepreneurs, listen to this. They got kicked out, they got rejected the first time, they've got an idea, now they're in business, but they got no clients.
And by the way, we really didn't have a business plan because we didn't know anything about the space. And to present a business plan, they could have been like, well, we're not looking for that. We were the business plan. It was like, we're gonna make this, look me in the eye, and I'm telling you, we will make this happen. Give us a shot. I mean, Those weren't the exact words, but that was the spirit of it.
Let's stay on that for a second, because I think this is huge, man.
People buy into people. They buy into stories and people. They don't buy into PowerPoints. You know, PowerPoints are just words. And we had a passion and a conviction around the idea because we knew we could make it work. We knew if we had the chance that no matter what, we were going to work 21-hour days, we're going to make it work.
You and I are both involved in a business together that we'll talk about at the end, and that's exactly what we both did in this case. We bought into the people. It's like so super true. But you have this thing that I think to the extent that someone has this thing I'm going to ask you about before we get into how you end up getting your first client, which is the best story of all time. But I think all successful people on some level, and to the extent you are successful is the extent you have this thing, which is that you're willing to step into spaces you are ill prepared for. So it seems to me like you're willing to, you kind of think like, if I get my foot in the door, then I'll figure this stuff out, right?
Yes.
Whereas what most people do, and this is killing you, by the way, I won't step into the door until I'm completely prepared, which is a total fallacy anyways as an entrepreneur,
right,
for sure. Or wanting to become a rapper or have a music career or an artist or anything great. If you're waiting for a threshold of, I need to be totally prepared, then I'll step in the door, you will be on the other side of that door the rest of your life. So talk about that. You have this sort of thing about you, you'll figure it out once you get in there.
Yeah, well, first of all, nothing happens if you don't get into the door. So you have to you have to figure out how to get in the door.
Right.
And I've always trusted the process that I'd be able to figure it out. But like the common thread throughout my journey as an entrepreneur in everything is I had no prior experience in anything that I did. And for me, that was the greatest blessing. Because for me, it meant rip up the playbook. No one taught me how to do it. So the whole industry was operating the same way. And I always say to my employees, Sarah, my wife does the same thing, you know, if no one taught you how to do your job, how would you do it? Like if you ripped up the playbook and you said, like, how would I treat my customer? How would I go after and pitch this? That's where innovation comes from. That's where innovation comes from. Everybody else in the space, they were doing the same playbook. All the brochures looked the same, and we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. So for us, it was a greatest blessing. So I think experience is overrated. It's important, but it takes so damn long. Yes. You know, and like if we would have waited to get 3 years on the line, and there would have been 4 other jet companies, and we would have never have done it. So
wow, that's so true.
You got to start the process. As an entrepreneur, I think like the number one thing is start. You never have it all figured out. It's never the right time. You never have enough experience. Yeah. But if you let that slow you down until it's the right time and the right experience, come on, man, the world's so fast.
So you're telling me you did not know a lot about the rap game before you got in it. You didn't know a lot about the writing lyrics game before that. You didn't know a lot, just listen to this, everybody. You didn't know a lot about the coconut water business before you got in it, the jet business before you got in it, or the NBA before you got in it.
I would say nothing.
Literally
I wouldn't
nothing.
say not a lot. I would say nothing.
It's incredible. I absolutely
and look,
love
you know, I was fortunate. You know, we were able to, as soon as we were able to afford to bring in people that knew more, we were able to scale it.
Yep.
And, you know, but we started everything very small. You know, we always thought really big. And once we got momentum, we were able to ramp it up super fast. The only way that I could really find, you know, I had to go where wealthy people were. And I heard about this conference called TED in Monterey, California when they were first starting out that was attracting all these tech guys and well-off folks, et cetera. So my partner's like, you got to go to the TED conference in Monterey, California. So I think I connected through Chicago into LA. It's a 5-hour car ride to Monterey, California. It was a 16-hour journey. And I get there, and as soon as I get there, everybody, it's like Fort Knox. I didn't have a credential to get in. So you couldn't go anywhere near the conference. So I'm like, man, I just flew 16 hours. I can't go in. I'm so frustrated. But it smelled like there was a sale there somewhere. So I'm like, let me go into the little coffee shop over here and try to like figure this out. And I'm sitting in the coffee shop, and about 20 minutes into my sitting there kind of like thinking, God, how am I going to do this? A wave of people with credentials come in, and they're ordering lattes and muffins. Okay. And I realized that they must be on coffee break from in between speakers at the tech conference. So they're all ordering lattes and muffins, latte and muffins. So the next morning, I show up at 5 o'clock, first one there as soon as they open, and I buy every single muffin. I control all the muffin inventory in Monterey, California. I bought every muffin. And when the first wave of folks come in, you know, they're like, come up with a latte and a muffin. Like, you can have a latte, but we're all out of muffins. And as they would walk out, I would say, excuse me, I have the muffin, my office here, we have all the muffins, and would you like a muffin? No, yeah. What do you do? Next thing you know, I'm in a conversation with someone. He's like, and he asked me what I did. And I said, well, I have a private jet company called Marquis Jet. And a guy who just sold his company called half.com to eBay. And he said, well, I'm actually interested in a private jet. Would you mind if I have a sit down and talk to you about it? And I was like, absolutely. I'm like, please sit down. You can have 2 muffins. And we started talking, and here's what's interesting. And here's how I built my career. He ended up being my first customer. But he was the key, because I serviced the hell out of him. Anything he wanted, carried his bags. If he was going to Mexico, shock and awe. Here's a book of places, here's a reservation, here's where you can snorkel. Like, that's not the business I'm in. I provide time on jets, no. That's what everybody else was doing. This is what we're gonna do. Here, I see your family's going. Here's a floaty thing for your 2-year-old, and they would get that. And I just serviced them. How was the trip? Can I help you? Here are your bags. And he was my source of referrals. There you go. And then the next guy came in, same system, same thing, same thing, same thing. And what was interesting about Marquis Jet, you know, it wasn't that we built this amazing company, you know, it was an amazingly successful venture. Clearly. And, but that wasn't the gold for me. The gold for me were the people that we flew. Because we flew 4,000 of the who's who of entrepreneurs, CEOs, athletes, entertainers, and I was like, wow. Here I am, I'm 30 years old. I was obsessed with meeting these people and learning about their daily routines. So what I would do is, I would say, like, every conversation was like, what time do you get up? What do you eat? How do you spend your time? How do you live rich? How do you do this? What's a vacation look like? And I would take all these habits from these winners at the highest level and start to incorporate them in my life. And the things that worked, stuck. And the things that didn't, I got rid of them. And over time, built this system. You mentioned in the beginning, like your life resume, built this system that works for me. And as I've evolved, now I have 4 kids, my system evolves, because I can't have the same system as single Jesse, 40 years old and no kids, where I have the freedom to do what I want. Now I have way more responsibilities, you know, with my family, so the system evolves. So that was the gift.
Wow. See, for me, for someone listening to this, and I already know what they're thinking, this is literally like an inside peek to like an absolute master class of how to do these things right here, everybody. And I just want to illustrate 2 points you made, and I want to make sure that I say them correctly. The first thing is that all of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, and obviously you're at the top of that list because there's been multiple wins. The reason I want you all listening to what Jesse covers and his social media and his content is because he's not only is he a mega successful entrepreneur, and also successful as a father, successful as an athlete of sorts, successful as an author. He's also had multiple wins. In other words, it wasn't a one-hit business wonder. This is a formula that has worked for him that he's replicated into many different business ventures. And you said something brilliant. The unique thing for the ones I see is they create an experience for their customers that is completely different than everybody else. I don't care if you're a personal trainer at a gym, you own a dry cleaners, or you own a jet brand. It's the experience, because if they don't enjoy the experience, it's not mind-blowing, they're not going to refer you to anybody, and your business can't go viral. It can't multiply, correct?
I always ask myself this one question. Would I recommend myself as fill in the blank? Would I recommend myself as a dad? Would I recommend myself as a business partner? Would I recommend myself as a coach? Would I recommend myself as a boss? And if the answer is no, why? Like, why? Why wouldn't I recommend myself? And I always tell people, like, you know, like people call up, like, my kids are going to their first job. What would be the one piece of advice? Make yourself irreplaceable. Make yourself irreplaceable. If you have that relationship with the customer, if you're so important, you're incredibly valuable. Wow, that's brilliant. But it's true. Yeah. And you know, I ask myself a lot of questions. And that's one thing I always ask myself. Like, you know, if let's say I go sideways with someone for some reason, I don't very often. Right. But if I do, would I recommend myself? What did I do? And very often, you know, I'm okay with it. And if it's something that I did, then I want to get in front of it and apologize or address it internally so it doesn't happen again. Yep. You mentioned something about success. And you know, everybody has there are multiple definitions of success. If you ask 100 people, you might get 100 answers. But you touched on something I think is important to the listeners. And to me, I have a lot of different definitions. Success isn't being good in one bucket. It's not about like, I made all this money, and I know, oh, it's easy for you to say. No, success is not about being good in one bucket. It's about being good in all the buckets. All the buckets. It's about being a good dad. It's about being, good to your employees. It's about giving back in the charity bucket. It's about doing the right thing when you do it. It's about standing up for something that you see is wrong. That's success. When I see people that are mega wealthy, they're just fucking wealthy. Yes. No, they're just wealthy. Yeah. That's not what it looks like. And you don't have to be wealthy. If you're struggling in one area, you can still be good in all the other areas. You can't spiral down because success, the way you look at it, isn't happening. Well, then go be successful in the other buckets and fill up your plate.
And then what it does too, by the way, like I could feel you coming at me with that because you feel so strong about it. Your physiology changed too. But what also happens is when you talk a lot about this, but when you get wins in other areas, you get life momentum.
Oh.
And people just, I did a training on this the other day, but like to me, I look at you, I go, okay, look. The thing you said about associating with these people and their habits, I didn't have a jet card company, but I joined a club where I could meet these kinds of guys. What is your schedule? What's your workout routine? How do you eat? What do you think about? How do you talk?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but habits, you get me all fired up. Everything comes around your day. We're talking about all these successes. They took years.
Yes.
Years.
Yes.
I remember walking into the president of Coca-Cola about the Zico thing. He's like, it takes 8 years to build a brand in this country. Of course, there's get rich quick things, and now it's a little faster, but it takes time. But what the foundation of that is your daily habits. It's creating winning habits, winning routines, and a winning mindset. That's the formula. It is. There's no way around it. It doesn't happen without that.
One of the unique things for me, because I completely agree, but one of the things unique about you and I is we both will be creating this content for a while, and then when we looked at each other's stuff, we're like, my God, we so believe the same things. We say it a little bit differently, but we so believe the same things. One of the unbelievable things about social media or podcasts like this is that you kind of can peek into what you had at Marquee Jets doing this. If someone follows you on Instagram or follows myself, you get access nowadays to something you and I never had. You can get access daily to some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, or fitness people, or parents, or people of faith, or whatever your area is, through digital connection now. It's not the same as live, but it's incredible the information you can tap into now.
You are my virtual mentor. No, you are. I mean, I'm in tune to what you say. It resonates deeply with me. You're in it for the right reasons. Like, there's a lot of reasons why the things you say really have stickiness with me. But you're to millions of people, you're a virtual mentor, and that's exactly your point.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that growing up.
No.
Our mentor was my dad and anyone in my small town.
Yeah, me too. Don't you think part of your life, Jesse, you got some life momentum going though, right? I mean, the journey is. I think it's the most. I mean, you're a young man, but I think it's the most remarkable journey that of anybody I've talked to, because of the breadth of different areas. It's just bananas to me. So let's even move out of one for a minute. Let's go to another thing, because I just would love the formula, because you talked about the formula. So you have these wins in business, which we'll talk about more of them in a minute. But then you go, I'm gonna go run like ultra marathons. This guy's run 100 miles in a day. There's some stat like 36,000 miles you've run in 25 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
What? Like, do you hear that?
It's just consistency, though. I know the number's big, and I'm proud of it. But it's because you know what, Ed? It's just part of my lifestyle. So again, we talk about daily habits.
Yes.
I have a very, very unique lifestyle that's worked for me.
Yeah.
I only eat fruit until noon. I've been doing that for 27 years unwaveringly. I'm happy to talk about that. I run every day.
Why?
Because it's all about energy.
Okay.
And you use more energy to digest food than everything else you'll do in your life combined. You'll eat about 70 tons of food in your lifetime. And to digest all that food takes a lot of energy. So if you could streamline your digestion and use less energy for digestion, you'd have more energy to have a vibrant life, to deal with infection, disease, and I have boundless energy. I mean, knock on wood.
You have boundless energy. And by the way, here's how real this is. When he showed up at my house today, he's like, someone's dropping off food, right? Like, he's that meticulous about what he's going to put into his body. I also enjoy in your social, by the way, the tips she gives on Instagram about the different things that are in some of the foods we eat that harm us so badly too.
Think about this. I'm going to tell you why it's so important to me.
Okay.
let's say you're a billionaire.
Yeah.
Okay? You have $1 billion. You got the helicopters, the farm, Laguna, you got all this stuff. You own sports teams and everything. And you're on a beautiful island in Hawaii with 9 Victoria's Secret models feeding you grapes head and massaging your feet, and life is good. Except you got a sore throat. And every time you swallow, it kills. The house, the planes, the masseuses, the grapes, none of that matters. All you want to do is get rid of your sore throat. That's how important health is. And there's a famous quote, if you have health, you have hope. If you have hope, you have everything. So nothing means anything if you don't. So I take it very, 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 very seriously. I don't play games with that. So
I don't think you play games. Well, actually, it's funny. I think you actually, life has sort of been this game to you that you're winning. But like I just got to understand something, man. Like you do things now, and I just think you kind of take them for granted. Like it's the same for me. Like if someone repeats back to me some accomplishment I've had or something I've done, it just, I don't even know how I feel about it. It's weird. Right?
I'll tell you how I feel about it. I don't care about it. I mean, we have an audience, they want to know the story, and I'm happy to share it if there's value. But the way I look at my life, I'm 50. I'm about to be 51. You talk about this all the time. The average American lives to be 78. So that means I have 27 summers left if I'm average. All the past stuff, that's done, man. My life is this window. 51 to 80. That's it. And I want to do this much shit in this much amount of time. So I have to be mega efficient. I have to focus on the things that I want to do with the people I want to do them with. And I got to eliminate the other stuff. So like the past, when people talk about it, it's like, okay, but like, who cares? Do you care that the Dallas Mavericks won the championship a couple of years ago?
I could care less.
No, this is the window.
This is now, everybody, we're about to go into what I think will be the best 25 or 30 minutes in the history of any podcast you've ever listened to. This is why you're here.
Let's do it.
Right now. And so, because this is where I think you're literally my brother in life, like because we're both unusually obsessed with this. A couple things I want to point out to everybody, things Jesse has said. My best friends and the people I know that are most successful are the most self-aware. You pointed that out earlier, just aware. They're in a bigger hurry, and they have a sense of, they want to bend and manipulate time, but time matters to them. And so if you're a 20-year-old listening to this, we're going to save you so much in your life for a minute, because you're going to talk to 2 guys now that are about 50 years old, okay? And for those of you that are in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, this is about to change your life, because you and I both, I think this is what defines me in my life right now, and that is my perception of time. And actually, to some extent, my thoughts about death and not being here anymore too. So talk a little bit about how time impacts you. You said something earlier about, I've got 27 of these left. How often do you think about this, and why does that matter? What's it do for you?
I think about it every single day, and I look at it in a very, you know, people talk about relationships in terms of all these different things and friends and relationship with your kids and people, but they don't really focus on their relationship with time and money, but time specifically. And I'm just super aware of it. I'm really aware of, you know, I just climbed Mount Washington and I got to the summit, and there were no 70-year-olds up there. You know, I went wakeboarding. There were no 70-year-olds out there. And the stuff that I like to do, that window is shrinking.
Yes.
And, you know, my parents are getting older. All these things are happening around me. You've heard me mention this before, like my parents live in Florida. Anyone that has parents that are elderly, you know, if you see them a couple of times a year and they're gonna live another 5 years, you don't have 5 years with them. You have 5 times the 2 visits you see a year, you have 10 visits with them. Once you start to look at time that way, those visits become insanely valuable. So like when I'm with my mom and dad, oh my God, like the TVs are off, you know, I am where my feet are and I'm focused on it. And you know, when I'm with you, like this is a great moment. I want to be here. And it's very difficult to be where your feet are. But that's something that I really try to do. I try to be super present.
Me too. And so let's dive deeper. So, see, I'm this big believer, brother. The way you just said that, 10 more visits.
Yeah, like where do your parents?
My parents are older too. My dad's got cancer, and the gift of his cancer, ironically, was exactly that. I don't know how many more visits I give him. I hope I have 3,000 more.
Right.
But I probably don't. And so what happens, everybody, is, man, that affected me right there. So everybody, scarcity creates value. And so that's why a diamond is more valuable than a piece of paper. The more scarce something is, the more valuable it becomes in life. The more you begin to allow yourself through the prism of seeing time as scarce. I don't care if you're 20 years old or 25. Listen to two dudes here. I think the reason we've both done so much young in our life is that oddly, we've always been this way. We didn't just, we're more pronounced that way at 50, but we were both a little bit that way at 20. We were both a little bit that way at 25. It's not that I thought I could live forever, but I had this sense of wanting to do things faster, of live my life faster. And so I want you to talk a little bit about, just for you, do you have this sense, like, I have this weird thing, man, like I'll wake up some Mondays and I'll go, how many more Mondays do I get?
Oh yeah.
Do you ever do that? I do with my kids. My son's 17. I'm kind of like, I only have so many more days with him.
I do. So, the challenge is so many of us, myself included, we live in routine. And when you're in routine, the clock goes fast. I make sure that I create a certain amount of experiences. It's something I call Kevin's rule every year. So Kevin is a police officer that I'm friends with from Suffolk County. Probably doesn't make an amazing living, but one of the happiest guys that I know. And I went to Mount Washington I took my son and his daughter. We slept out in the snow in this blizzard, like in these -40 sleeping bags, all huddled up, looking at the snow coming down. We're outside. I'm like, this is an amazing moment. I said, Kevin, how often do you do this? We're here with our kid. How often do you do this? He goes, well, every other month I take a trip that I wouldn't have done on a weekend, that instead of watching a football game, I'll go fishing, I'll go to a museum, I'll do something. And I said, wow, like if I can't take one day every 8 weeks, once every 2 months, to create an experience, then I'm out of whack. And if I do that for the next 30 years, I will create 150 moments that I wouldn't have had. That's the power of doing things cumulatively.
Wow.
One of the advantages of having money is, you get to treat your friends and you get to treat people, and that's the greatest gift and all that stuff. But you also meet some amazing people.
True.
It's the people you meet. And I was in a meeting talking about something with an advisor, and he said to me a really powerful question. He said, if you could leave one of two things to your kids,
What's up, bro?
all this money
I do it for
or a
free,
wealth
bro.
of experiences, what would you rather leave? And I'm like, of course I want to leave the experiences.
100%.
And so that's defined this chapter of my life. You talked about build your life resume.
Boy, that's brilliant.
We focus on so much of our attention on the traditional resume, but we neglect these experiences. And the more you experience, the more you have to offer.
Gosh.
The more, right? I mean, the more empathy you have, the more you can offer to your kids, the more you can offer to your team, your employees. And so I have really made it and you have to work on this shit. As you get older, creating newness is hard.
You got it.
There's no newness unless you create it. You're in routine.
You have to intentionally
You have to
do it.
intentionally do it. So like I'm aware of that. You're talking about time, man. Time is running out. We're insignificant. There's 7 billion people, man. We're nothing.
Yes.
So I'm very aware of that, and I don't want to go through life being the 80% version of me. I don't want to look back and be like 77 and be like, I always wish we talked about going away maybe, what. I don't want to look back and like, I didn't do that.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm just in action mode. I'm almost operating like I'm manic because there's so much I want to do, and I love life so much. I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it because I'm lazy. It's not the right time. I don't have enough experience, and it has nothing to do with money.
You got it. That's what I want them to hear.
Not Washington. It costs $18 to park.
Exactly. So I want everyone to hear that. So this weekend I put a post out. It's amazing. I put a post out this weekend. I said, hey, go do something new this weekend. Go to a new park. See a new beach. Go to a new coffee shop. Like just do something new. Have a new drink. Eat a new meal. Right? Meet a new human.
That's
right?
also where creativity comes from.
That's where it all comes from.
And,
What you just said earlier, man, I get so fired up being around extraordinary people who get it, because you said something earlier that was brilliant. You're like, I have this huge life. You don't have balance. What you are is present where you are. Like, there's no way someone with all of this stuff in our lives, we can be perfectly balanced, nor can you. But these experiences don't require you to have money.
And I recognize how hard it is for people to break the norm.
Yes.
But normal is completely broken. Look at normal. The majority of this country doesn't have savings. The majority, the divorce rate is 50%. Obesity is like a third or something. I don't even know the stats, but they're overwhelming.
Gigantic, right.
1 out of 3 people have cancer and all. all this stuff. Let me share this story with you real quick, Ed. You remember Rick Barry, who played in the NBA?
Of course.
So Rick Barry,
The granny free throw.
Rick Barry shot 90% from the free throw line. Okay, 1 year in 1978 in the season, he only missed 10 foul shots the whole season. Crazy. The league average is like 77%. I think LeBron is below 80 career. Michael Jordan maybe was 82. This guy was 90. Okay, and he shot every single one of those free throws underhand. He didn't care what anyone said. He didn't care if they laughed at him. He just kept fucking ringing up the points. Underhand, boom, boom, I'm good. Like, didn't even hit the rim. Since he played in the league, there's been about 2,700 people drafted. How many of those people have tried to shoot the ball underhand? None. Zero. Because people don't want to do shit that looks funny or weird, and it's broken. The way you live is you rip it up, and you don't give a shit. And you're like, I'm so aware of my mortality. I hope everybody loves this. But if they don't, it's not, what am I going to worry about it?
Right.
I'm going to go continue to do what I want to do to get the most out of this precious time.
So good, man.
You know?
So talk about that, because that's the other cool thing about being aware of mortality, because you speak about this better than anyone I've ever heard in my life. Like 100 years from now, none of these people you embarrass yourself in. Talk about that a little bit, because this will give you, everyone right now, you're so consumed with what people are going to think. And just so you know, they may actually think it in the moment, but long term, they're not going to remember anything you did. Tell them about that. I love this.
No, I mean, and look, I have my fears too. I want to be liked. I don't want people, you know,
So do I.
but yeah, I mean, one of the tricks that I do is I walk around when I'm super scared, or I'm against that wall of fear that I control, and it's stacked up, and I'm like, I'll say to myself, Jesse, nobody on this planet, I'll look around, is even going to be here in 100 years. No one's living to 160. So what do I care? And no one in China or Russia, they're not going to know that the speech wasn't great, or this interview wasn't successful. And that helps me.
Me too.
Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest minds of our time, predicted that just the way humanity is going, environment, nuclear weapons, all these factors, that in 500 years there would be no life on Earth. Then right before he died, we're talking about one of the greatest minds ever, he changed that prediction to 100 years. Let's just say for a second he's right. Well, let's just say there's a lot of crazy people out there, the environment, disease, you know, Ebola, whatever. Let's just say that was the case, because we don't know. If you knew that was going to happen, you're telling me you wouldn't take a chance or take the trip or visit your parents or do whatever or go through the wall? Of course you would. And that's how I look at it. I look at it like, you know, and you know, there's three kinds of regrets. There's the regrets that you can change. I broke up with my girlfriend in high school. I wish I had her back. I can't change that. That's not the case. I'm just saying. Right? That's one kind of regret. The other kind of regret is regrets that you can fix. I have a relationship with my dad. It went sideways. I can pick up the phone and be like, Dad, I'm sorry, and fix that. And now there's no more regret. And then there's regrets that you can prevent. Okay? And those are the regrets, like you always wanted to run a marathon. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. And you can prevent it, because if it doesn't happen, you could have prevented it. So I look at those things too. I'm like, am I going to regret this in the future? I don't want future regrets. And I want to fix the regrets that I have. So let me get in front of it. And these are all kind of strategies that I use that help me get over.
It just blows my mind how much I want everyone, I'm just mind blown, because guys, like, no one talks about this. What we're talking about right now, you can go watch 3,000 podcasts, a million different speeches. No one talks about this because it's like a really vulnerable, almost odd thing to admit that we both think this way. But I just want to acknowledge something that you just said. Like, I think about that all the time. I'm obsessed with that. I'm so grateful for meeting you, because I know I'm not crazy. Because I think sometimes to comfort myself from fears, I'll think, no one's going to be here in 100 years. And you know what? The Earth could be hit by an asteroid tomorrow, for all I know, right? Like, there's all these random events in life that I'm holding on to something that doesn't even exist. And
I just think it's so important. Like, the one thing that always gets me back to like ground zero is I get one shot at this life. I get one shot at it. I want to love. I want to like give. I want to be loved. I want to do good things. You know, and I have, of course, everybody goes off the wagon and this and that, but I'm very aware of like, this is it. I remember I was saying to my wife, this race that I want to run called Badwater, and she was saying to me like, it's a 135-mile run in Death Valley. It's like the hardest foot race. And she's like, why do you want to do that? It's going to mess up your hips. And then when you're 70, 75, you can't do anything. And I'm like, I'm not playing for 75. I'm playing for right now.
Yes.
Yes. And
are you going to do it?
Absolutely, because if I don't, it's a regret that I know I'll have.
See, I lived my whole life. You haven't heard me talk about this probably, but like everyone, I want you to
Fast forward to 75. 75-year-old Jesse is like, and then I'm going to resent my wife. I'm going to be like, you didn't let me do the race.
It's right. I do that crazy regret future thing with death. So I have this image where I go to heaven and the Lord goes, hey, well done, good and faithful servant, right? Whatever someone's religious beliefs are. But then I have this picture where he goes, and you've heard me say this, and I run this picture constantly, man. It's one of my greatest shrinkers of time. He says, hey, let me introduce you to the man you were born to be. This is the destiny version. This is the ultimate version of you. This is the maxed out version of you. I want you to meet him. These are the experiences, the love, the memories, the moments, the contributions, the people, all the things that you could have done. This is what you were capable of. Meet him. To me, heaven is I meet him, we're identical twins. Hell is I meet him and we're complete total strangers, right? And that's what that is it's future projecting the regret. What you just said.
So, not to put you on the spot,
yes,
but I'm just going to put you on the spot for a second. So, like, our existence, humans, it's like a novel. We have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes.
We reflect on the beginning, right? So, like, tell stories about our childhood, like, oh yeah, you remember that Marquis Jet? We're reflecting.
Yep.
The middle is like where we live now. That's where all of our worry is. That's where we spend all of our time. We think we're never going to get out of this rut. We're stuck here. And that's where we are. And then the end, we often ignore. And let me just put it in perspective. I'm sure most people listening have not picked out their graveyard plot yet, right? You probably haven't. No,
I have not.
Right. So then you're not really taking it seriously.
Have you?
Yes.
You have.
Yeah, I've addressed it. I've addressed the end of my life as part of my life optimization system, which we can talk about.
Yes.
But like, that's an important piece. Like, my wife has to know where my passcodes are. Everything has to be in order. I want to know because like, it's going to happen. It could happen tomorrow. You're not really dealing with it if you're ignoring it, Ed.
point.
Like you're saying,
I'm glad you said that to me.
No, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, this shit is real, man.
Yes.
You never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you're really serious about it, you have a plot. You have a plan. Your wife knows everything. Everything is taken care of. That's responsible. And that, when you do it, then you really say like, this shit is real. It's real.
Yeah,
and it creates urgency.
Yeah, that's another level for me. So I talk about it all the time. I
and I'm
obsess
not
about
knocking you. I know.
No.
You know,
Listen.
I'm just saying, like.
Do you know how much I love that you say that to me? I love when someone pushes me to the next level, nudge me like, hey, brother, if you're really serious, you do this. That's what we do when we coach our best friends. Like, hey, if you're really serious about sewing your do, if you're really serious about running this thing, here's what you be doing. So, by the way,
end of life is something we ignore.
Yeah, the next time we talk, I will have had that done. By the way, that'll be done within a matter of probably days. Like, that's just, I'm going to take immediate action on that.
Well, I'll tell you how this whole thing surfaced, if you have a second.
Yes.
I was driving with my son in the car, and this is like one of those moments, I hope I don't get emotional, but I'm driving with him, and my son, he's in the back, I'm in the minivan, I'm looking at him in the window, and he says, Dad, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, sure. He's like, what's a curse word? I'm like, oh, a curse word is a bad word. Those are words we don't use in the house. And we keep driving. He goes, can I ask you another question, Dad? I'm like, sure. He goes, is shithead a curse word? That's awesome. And I'm like, well, that's awesome. Is it even a curse word? I don't even know anymore. So we keep driving. I'm like, yes. And I'm like, who called you a shithead? And he goes, my friends have been saying I'm a shithead, all this stuff. So we're driving. And he goes, can I ask you another question? And I go, sure. He goes, when I die, this is a 7-year-old kid at the time. When I die, what if I can't find you in heaven? And that really hit me because, like the image of me not being here, then my son waiting to come up and try to find me and then worrying that I'm not here. And that really jump-started me thinking about how much I want to live, how important what I eat is, how important my relationships are, how important my time is, how important my kids are to me, and how real this window that we're talking about is. I have a 3-bucket system, and it will be too much to do in this particular, but let me give you two at 30,000 feet. I have, and anyone can do this, I have in a list of electives. When you go to college, You have mandatory courses, most of them you hate, calculus, whatever. I don't want to take that. Whatever that. I want to learn how to make money.
Right.
But then you have electives, the things you want to do. So I make a list, and I love that. So I made a list of all the things I want to do in the year. I want to run a marathon, I'm doing a documentary, I'm writing a book, family trips, all the stuff that I want to do, okay? They go into an elective chart. Then I have a list, come back to it, of what I call my sunshine. Electives, sunshines. My sunshines are my daily habits. That is, and I try to introduce one new habit a month. That could be, last month it was drink 100 ounces of water. This month is introducing a meditation practice. Because at the end of the year, if you have 12 new winning habits, that's a hell of a year.
Wow, totally true.
That's a hell of a year. Most of us think back to like last 2 years, like what have you added that's new? Even myself, nothing.
Yeah, if you're lucky, it's 0 to 1.
Right. So, and when I tell people that, they're like, "Well, I'm gonna do 3 things. I'm gonna read the newspaper every day. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna drink water." I'm like, start with one. Yeah. And then introduce the next one. So my daily habits, I have a list of them, and that could be like, I want to play with my kids for an hour. I want to read to my kids. I want to drink more water. And every night before I go to bed, I look at my list of sunshine and say, how do I want to put sunshine in my life the next day? I know it sounds corny, but that's what I do. And I'm like, okay, hour with my kids, and I make sure everything is scheduled the night before. It's like, we can't afford to wing it anymore.
Yeah.
So every CEO, top CEOs have 3 assistants. And they wake up and they come in the morning and their assistant hands them a schedule, says 9 to 9:15 here, 9:15 to 9:30 here. We don't have 3 assistants. Most of us don't have 3 assistants, but we can't wing it. The night before, you have to have the day laid out. So I sprinkle in my sunshines into the day. And then underneath that, electives, sunshine. My electives go on a year calendar. So I schedule them. The marathons, my year's, it's already scheduled. It's done. I know the races I'm running, the trips I'm taking, it's all in there. All the stuff I want to do is written in, because I'm not going to waste away the thing. I'm not going to go through a year and not do the shit that I want to do. Then my life plan, my system would be out of whack. But underneath the sunshines and the electives is this big ocean. And that's all the stuff that takes away from the things I like to do. I have to get my oil changed in my car twice a year. I have to go to the doctor and get my colonoscopy at 50 and go get my dentist shit and all that stuff. I have weddings. All that is the ocean. That stuff takes away from this stuff. So if you are fortunate enough to have someone that can help you with this, which I have assistants, then you can do it. But if not, then you can assign it and delegate some of the stuff. But if not, this big ocean, which I went 48 years of my life doing myself, what I do is I get it all on paper. So it's out of my head to free up energy. And what that does is it gives me a snapshot of, basically I have 15 things. I don't want to belabor the point, but everything from pets to cars to this, and it's all and end of life. It's all laid out. And I have this amazingly efficient system. I could walk everyone through it, but I don't have the time to do it now. But I'm just saying, I take it super seriously because you can't wing it.
Yep. And they can find more of the detail, because I know a little about the program, and I'm like, I want to.
I didn't mean to get off track with it, but I think it's important to
not
talk
at
about
all. Like, I want them to hear this, because I think people think, well, I have habits and routines, or I have a plan. Do you really? Because this is what one really looks like. This is what a high-level thinker does. This is what a high-level achiever does. So guys, there's something that you guys should go get, which is called Living with the Monks. Again, I know your listeners going, are you serious? The same dude also lived with monks? Yep, he's also lived with monks. So that's why we're going a little bit longer today, guys, because I'm just not going to cheat you out of this. So what the hell made you decide to go live with some monks, and what is a takeaway from that experience?
Yes, I was just realized I had invested so much in my physical side, run all these marathons and ultra marathons, trainers, this and that, but I really neglected the spiritual side. I had invested nothing in that side. And I felt like to be the best version of me, I really needed that. And again, speed up the process. I could listen to a bunch of podcasts, which are amazing, but I don't learn, everyone learns differently. I learn through experiences.
Sure.
So part of my whole kind of build my life resume, collect these moments, and I was like, who are the masters? And I was like, monks. I got to go live with monks and figure this thing out. So I did. I went for 15 days. I lived with 8 monks that had been on a monastery for almost 50 years. And no phone, no anything, total isolation from my family, everybody. And had a room about, which they call a cell, about 10 feet by 8 feet. And I lived there for 15 days. It was It was unbelievable.
Were you a meditator prior to that?
No, I took
What?
I took
Dude,
a,
it's so crazy.
I took a crash course in transcendental meditation.
After you decided to go live with monks.
Yeah, like a couple, like right
Again,
before I
so
went.
it's another thing. You're like, you're in the door. Now I'm going to figure this out. I
Yeah.
probably should learn to meditate before I get there.
Yes.
Dude, you're crazy. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So, did you just hear that, you guys? He decides to live with monks. He's never meditated before.
Yeah. By the way, I thought all monks were Buddhists. I lived with Russian Orthodox monks. They were, I mean, the whole thing was. I had no idea what I was getting myself into or doing.
What was your primary takeaway from it? By the way, you should read the book, everybody. But
You know, it's so interesting. When I left, people asked me how I felt. And this is going to surprise you in my answer. And there's a lot of takeaways. I don't know why, just this one popped into my head. But when I got in the car to go back to the airport, and I lost all this weight, I'd shaved my head, the driver said, "How do you feel?" And I thought he was going to say, relax. Thought I would say, relax. Yeah. You know, quiet. The answer was proud. I was really proud of myself for sticking it out. And we talked earlier before we came on about small wins and momentum. I realized that it's really important to me to make myself proud to create what I call an edge. You know, like these moments that you stick things, because I wanted to leave. Day 3, I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm done. The clock was going. It was like, tick, tock. Every hour was 7 days. And I'm like, this is fucking bananas. You know, I'm like this. I'm in my room. I can't even concentrate. I'm going crazy. I don't know, I had all these thoughts that my wife probably hates me. She's probably mad. My kids might come. I was going crazy. And I have this saying that really, these 2 words that really changed my life. And that's remember tomorrow. Remember how your decision today is going to make you feel tomorrow. And I said to myself, if I leave, which I could do, how's that going to make me feel tomorrow? A quitter. I didn't finish my journey. I didn't get to the end of the movie, which I've been talking about, that I live by. You know, so those 2 words, which popped into my head, you know, have been something that whenever I have a split-second decision, I'm like, how's that decision going to make me
Thanks
feel
for being
tomorrow?
here. I'm going to sign off. Happy
You know?
Thanksgiving, Canadians.
So
and
you don't want to go
Americans,
for a run
everybody.
today? That's fine. But how am I going to feel about that later tomorrow? You want to drop out of the marathon? How's that going to make me feel tomorrow? You don't want to go visit because all your friends are at happy hour. You don't want to go make the extra calls or go visit the
Thanks for
property
hanging out, being
or
here all
go
the time. You're
talk
the
to
man.
the investor because everyone else is at. How's that going to make you feel tomorrow when someone else gets the property? So those 2 words have really they're tattooed on my brain. And I think about it a lot.
dude, I'm loving this so much. I'm getting so much from this.
It's a really good tool.
Yeah, it is. You project into the future a lot, even if you just do it a day. I love how you do that because you're going to be there the next day. And so asking yourself how you feel that day, I'm stealing that from you.
Joey, thanks, bro.
That's
Thanks,
so
man.
darn
There's
good,
no
man.
stealing.
It's so good.
There's no secrets. Again, I'm here for 30. What, you think I care?
Yeah.
I'm here for 30 years. I want everyone to get the most
Post-lifting
out of it.
flex.
Well, that's why we're recording it, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay, so last question about another person, then a couple to finish. So then what's it like living with a SEAL? So that's another one of his books, you guys, Living with a SEAL. And so take them through a little bit, just really quickly. Everybody knows, well, not everybody knows, that's not true. Many of you probably know who David Goggins is, and David's a stud. But one of the reasons you know who David Goggins is because you learned a lot from him and he learned a lot from
Aw,
you.
thank you,
But
bro.
You knew David Goggins.
Thanks, man.
before
I do
the
it-
rest of the
I
world
do it
knew
for the
David
endorphins,
Goggins.
man.
And talk
I do
about
it for the
how
feeling.
he ended up living with
You too,
you,
bro.
literally, and then what was a couple takeaways from
Você
being
também,
with him?
Joey,
Because that's a lot
irmão.
different than living with a monk.
Yeah, I think, we hear this whole thing about being around like-minded people,
Yeah.
but you learn from
I gotta
being
go, though.
around people that aren't
Thanks,
like
Joey.
you,
Thanks,
that
Russ.
have mastered.
Thanks, Lucas.
He's mastered a lot of things, the mind and all this stuff. I saw him at a race I was running. I saw a drive that I've never seen. He had broken most of the bones in his feet because he weighed so much running this ultra marathon, yet continued to run to get to his goal. And I was like, if I
Happy
could teach that
Thanksgiving,
drive
bro,
to my
to you
kids.
too, homie.
Yeah.
So I was like, like anything in my life, if I find someone interesting or different or unusual or the best, I want to get him into my life. So I just really reached out to him. We've created this kind of friendship, and I said, you know what? I'm not getting the secret sauce over lunch meetings and stuff. Would you come live with me? And he came and he lived with our family for 30 days. And before, yeah, I mean, I guess people in the ultra world knew about him, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you learn?
he's just a fascinating guy. I mean, I learned that I'm capable of a lot more than I thought I could. I have an extra gear. I'm a wimp. You know, I had so much respect for him for what he's done for our country. Again, like, he shadowed me. We went everywhere together for a month. So I picked up so much. But I think the biggest lesson, you know, being around Gyges was just that I was capable of more. Even though I thought I was operating at a really high level, I still had more in me.
Yep.
And
I think that's what the people around you, the best people around you, do is they stretch your capacity.
Yeah.
They see something in you that you don't see. And the lesson for me from it is, and for everybody, because you said it earlier about podcast versus experience, it's like you built this muscle now where you're like, look, proximity is influence. Proximity is, right? So it's great that, by the way, it's wonderful you access social media. It's wonderful you get podcasts, because that's proximity to a guy like you they would never otherwise get 25 years ago. But then there's another layer of proximity, which is maybe you attend a live meeting with somebody.
Right.
There's another one where they become a mentor. There's another one when they become your friend. And then there's another one when they live with you, literally. So what you do is you pull and everybody listening to this, you pull the influence closer to you. Its impact on you is greater, right? And I think that's the lesson for me. That's why I want to pull you closer to me. It's like, I want you closer to me because the influence, this is more influential for me than what we did on the phone, than our first meeting. And the next time we're together will be greater because of the proximity. So that's the lesson for me. Guys, think about everything we've covered today. Breakdancing, rapping, coconut water, owner of the Atlanta Hawks, married to the lady, Sarah Blakely, who founded Spanx, right? Like, sells marquee jets, runs ultra marathons, climbs these peaks in his life, lives with monks, has a seal move into his house. It's just a banana story. One of the greatest speakers on earth. It's a crazy story. All that in there, I got a question for you. No one's asked you. What are you afraid of?
Oh, just everything's around my kids, pretty much. That's my biggest fear.
You mean something with your children?
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting is when you have kids, the energy, at least for me, the energy around worry is very draining. So even though we're here, my kids are in Atlanta, I'm thinking about them. What are they, up today? Anything happen? It's just, this is the way I'm wired.
Me too.
So I think that's a fear. And then the other fear is just like not living up to my potential.